Chapter 961, Unprecedented Contest. Chapter 961, Unprecedented Contest. Translator. Atlas Studios. Editor. Atlas Studios. Ha, I finally succeeded. Coming out of the underground cave, Fang Yuan's face was filled with joy. During this period, he had exerted all of his effort into deducing this immortal killer move. He had finally obtained some results today. This new killer move used Eat Strength Immortal Gu, Pulling Mountain Immortal Gu and Pulling Water Immortal Gu as the cores. With 330,000 supplementary Mortal Gu, he formed an extravagant combination that would stun another person. To activate this killer move, Fang Yuan had to focus wholeheartedly for 2 hours, activating this set of Gu worms. Then, going through 3 days and nights without rest, he could gradually transform his living body into an immortal zombie body, or transform his immortal zombie body into a living body. Even though it was not as convenient as Nirvana Fire, Fang Yuan had reached his limits by getting such progress. Fang Yuan was very satisfied with this result. After all, Fang Yuan only had so many Strength Path Immortal Gu. He could use all of them here thanks to the Light of Wisdom. Of course, it was because he had Nirvana Fire as the blueprint. If he did not have Nirvana Fire, or the set of Gu worms to research that were lent by Blazing Heaven Demonis, Fang Yuan would not have been able to obtain a Strength Path version in such a short time. Also, Fang Yuan had Wisdom Path Grandmaster attainment level. Because of all these reasons, a minor miracle was created. Next, I have to use those Strength Path Immortal Zombies and exert Strength Gu to form my high-grade Life and Death Blessed Land, to revive. Fang Yuan sighed internally. After searching for so long, he had finally reached this stage. As for Luopa Valley, Tai Bai Yun Sheng had repaired it not long ago. Fang Yuan gave it a try, cultivating inside Luopa Valley. It was indeed the soul cultivation sacred land that was on par with Dang Hun Mountain. Paired with Dang Hun Mountain's Guts Gu, Fang Yuan's soul cultivation was advancing by leaps and bounds. But now, Fang Yuan knew that the most important thing was to revive. His soul cultivation could be placed aside now, he did not need to engage in it. Fang Yuan could almost not hold in his urge. But just as he was about to start, he received Blazing Heaven Demonis letter. The contents caused his revival plan to pause. Rank 8 Great Strength True Martial Immortal Zombie. When Fang Yuan saw this line, his heart pounded. The information that Blazing Heaven Demonis gave him was regarding the nameless mountain in southern border. This matter was too big now, it concerned an immortal Gu house, it had spread throughout the entirety of southern border's Gu immortal world. In southern border, there was a zombie alliance branch as well. Thus, as the leader of the Northern Plains Zombie Alliance branch, Blazing Heaven Demonis quickly got hold of the news. Blazing Heaven Demonis has great ambitions, she knows that I have fixed immortal travel, thus she observed the events over all 5 regions. As a higher-up of Zombie Alliance, she could collect information more easily than Fairy Li Shan. Fang Yuan felt his weakness in intelligence gathering once again. In his previous life, he had an organization and network, his developed blood path Gu worm techniques could replace the use of most information path methods. But in this life, Fang Yuan used his previous life's memories together with intelligence mainly from people like Fairy Li Shan and Langya Land Spirit. As more and more unexpected surprises occurred, Fang Yuan was starting to feel that his previous life's memories were beginning to become unreliable. The truth of history was often hidden in deep fog, what Fang Yuan saw in his previous life was only what had been exposed and was seemingly true on the surface. Even for matters that he had experienced personally, they might not have been as simple as he thought. The reasons for the occurrence of many events were complicated. In my previous life, I had a tough time, I slowly climbed up from the bottom, my network and resources were accumulated slowly, thus I had no obvious weaknesses. But after rebirth, I have obtained opportunities one after another, my strength rose rapidly, or rather, explosively. Thus, in many aspects, I could not keep up. It seems that I have to use more information path methods to collect intelligence. For the time being, I can rely on outsiders like Blazing Heaven Demonis, but in the long run, I need to rely on myself. Fang Yuan contemplated. Lack of information meant losing many opportunities. Like just now, Fang Yuan did not know the situation, he was kept in the dark, he almost missed this fortuitous encounter completely. 3 days later, Fang Yuan went alone to southern border, approaching the nameless mountain. Blazing Heaven Demonis was still in Dark Flow Giant City. She had told Fang Yuan in the letter that she was busy refining Gu and setting up the immortal Gu formation, she could not leave. But when necessary, she would come to take action. As for He Lulan and Fairy Li Shan, they were in northern plains, using Luo Pa Valley to cultivate their souls, and increase their foundation. They had an intense interest towards the immortal Gu house, but their northern plains aura made it difficult for them to roam southern border. Fang Yuan came here to obtain intelligence. Even though he had become a Gu immortal in northern plains, he had the concealment of vaguely familiar face, ordinary Gu immortals could not expose him. On the nameless mountain, once in a while, phantom images would reappear. Bai Ning Bing was nowhere to be found. Fang Yuan watched it 3 times over and pondered over it before moving, getting close to the nameless mountain. As expected, like what Blazing Heaven Demonis said in the letter, this place was a forbidden zone for immortals. The deeper Fang Yuan went, the more he felt his limbs going weak, he felt that his immortal aperture was being pressured by a formless force. Fang Yuan had to stop in his tracks, he knew that if this continued, his immortal aperture would be destroyed before he took 50 or 60 steps. That would not do. He had to use his strength path immortal aperture to create the life and death immortal aperture. Fang Yuan had to retreat. At this time, he heard a tender laughter from behind him. Fang Yuan's pupils shrunk, he immediately turned around. Only to see a beautiful woman, dressed in pink and red, her hair was tied up and her skin was white like snow, her eyes were alluring and watery, she was standing nearby, looking at Fang Yuan. Fang Yuan did not dare to be careless. This woman was oozing with Gu immortal aura, she was a rank 6 Gu immortal. Seeing Fang Yuan's gaze, this beautiful woman introduced herself, I am Li Meihua, people call me Granny Meihua. Handsome lad, you look very unfamiliar, where do you cultivate? Fang Yuan smiled, he thought, so she is Granny Meihua. Even though Fang Yuan had never seen Granny Meihua personally, he had seen her granddaughter, that demonic path female Gu master, Hu Mei Er. To care for beauty was natural for women. There was no relation between the age and appearance of Gu immortals. Right now, Fang Yuan wore a green robe and his sleeves were large and wide, the wind blew and his robe fluttered, moving like a war banner. In Fang Yuan's disguise, he had a rank 6 Gu immortal aura, he was tall and skinny, having a middle-aged appearance with a tall nose bridge, slim eyes, and his pupils radiated with faint traces of jade green light. He gave off an eerie aura, as if he was not to be trifled with, even though he was not good-looking, he had quite a disposition. Granny Meihua, I have long since heard of you. I am Xingying, I am just a simple wanderer. Fang Yuan replied. Xingying. Li Meihua memorized this name, she could not remember such a person in southern border. However, she did not find it strange. Hearing Fang Yuan's introduction, she knew that he was a lone cultivator. Southern border had many mountains, countless experts were in seclusion. Many lone cultivators never showed themselves, nobody knew about them. But because of the immortal Gu house, Gu immortals one after another were attracted and had come over. Fang Yuan, who was disguised as Xingying, was just one of them. These last days, Li Meihua had contacted many Gu immortals similar to Fang Yuan. Fang Yuan was slightly suspicious towards Li Meihua's warm attitude in approaching him. Fang Yuan was about to ask, when Li Meihua told him the reason. Fang Yuan realized at once. Li Meihua invited Fang Yuan to travel together, after thinking about it, he agreed. He followed Li Meihua and moved out, settling down at Headless Mountain which was 1,000 li away. When Fang Yuan got there, there were already many demonic path or lone immortals on the mountain. Seeing Fang Yuan, many cast curious gazes, while some has grim or ruthless expressions. Because they did not know Fang Yuan's background, no Gu immortals spoke to him yet. But Granny Mei Hua was quite popular. The moment she returned, someone smiled. Li Mei Hua, you brought another one. Ha ha ha, this time, we demonic and lone cultivators have gathered to negotiate with the righteous path. Granny Mei Hua has made the most contribution towards it. Oh no, I am flattered, I am just doing my best to help. Li Mei Hua smiled as she greeted and interacted with the people around here one after another. She managed the individual relationships with great ease. Let me introduce you, this is Brother Xianxia, he is a lone immortal. After talking to everyone, Li Mei Hua introduced Fang Yuan to them. So you are Brother Sheng. Immediately, a demonic path Gu immortal cupped his fists. I am Zhong He. I see that Sir cultivates transformation path. Oh, my name is Lan Tianhong, I am also a lone cultivator. Fang Yuan showed a look of being poor at socializing, barely interacting with them. After some short talks, Headless Mountain returned to being peaceful like before Fang Yuan arrived. Li Mei Hua did not stay on the mountain for long. She had to return to the nameless mountain and wait for more people. She pointed at a mountain before leaving, telling Fang Yuan that Pine Tail Mountain is the base camp of the righteous path Gu immortals. Even without her pointing it out, the intense Gu immortal aura on that mountain had already informed Fang Yuan. After separating from Li Mei Hua, Fang Yuan stayed on Headless Mountain. He did not go out often, most of his time was spent in his cave. After all, Fang Yuan was disguised now, and vaguely familiar face was not an invincible disguise. He stayed and waited for more than 10 days. During this period, Headless Mountain and Pine Tail Mountain welcomed Gu immortals from both righteous and demonic paths. Most of them were rank 6, whenever a rank 7 Gu immortal came, a commotion would be created. Eventually, even rank 8 Gu immortals arrived, a total of 4. 1 demonic path, 1 lone cultivator, and 2 of the righteous path. It formed a balance of power on both sides. The rank 8 Gu immortals did not involve themselves. Every day, the Gu immortals on both sides recommended one person each to engage in a difficult negotiation. After 7 days and nights of negotiation, they finally came to an agreement. The righteous and demonic paths, dozens of Gu immortals set an agreement together. All around the nameless mountain, they were engaging in a grand contest that was rare even in 1,000 years. The winner of the contest would obtain the opportunity on the nameless mountain. As for the other Gu immortals, they were not to attack the victor for the next 3 years. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 962, Xiao Shan, Xiao Mang. Chapter 962, Xiao Shan, Xiao Mang. Translator. Atlas Studios. Editor. Atlas Studios. At the bottom of falling heavenly river, immortal zombie Bo Qing's eyes moved around, looking emotionlessly at Song Zixing and Yumu Chun. At this moment, Song Zixing and Yumu Chun's hearts were jumping. They were facing immense pressure, they were drenched in sweat. Bo Qing was known as a pseudo-immortal venerable. During his time, he was publicly recognized as the strongest person under rank 9 venerables in the 5 regions. Even though he had become an immortal zombie after the tribulation and his immortal aperture was completely destroyed, he still had ample rank 8 immortal essence on him, especially his sword path Dao marks. They were not destroyed. Thus, his battle strength was terrifying. The most crucial point were the Dao marks. The higher the Gu immortals' cultivation level, the more Dao marks they had. Even if 2 people were using the same immortal Gu, the difference in Dao marks would cause different outcomes when the immortal Gu's power was amplified. Consider Qin Bai Sheng, a soul path Gu immortal who also cultivated metal path. He did not have a single sword path Dao mark on him, but when he used 5-finger fist heart sword, he could fight Feng Jiu Gu on equal grounds. Right now, none of Bo Qing's immortal Gu were damaged. Together with his vast number of sword path Dao marks, he could display unimaginable might. He could almost replicate the glory that he had when he was alive. Thus, Baizang Shui, 7-star child, and the others had no chance to resist him. Not to mention Song Zixing and Yumu Chun. The higher the rank of the Gu immortal, the greater the difference. Between ranks 7 and 8, the difference in Dao marks was like heaven and earth. Between ranks 6 and 7, there might be those who are evenly matched occasionally. But when rank 8 fought against rank 7, it was almost always a one-sided fight. When rank 9 fought rank 8, it would be as simple as stepping on an ant. Facing immortal zombie boing, Song Zixing and Yumu Chun had no way to retaliate. Am I going to die today? What will we do? What will we do? The two of them felt their bodies going cold, countless thoughts were churning in their minds. Looking at this situation, they had almost no hope. Boing raised his finger, pointing at Song Zixing. A thin sword light flashed. Song Zixing did not even try to escape, he faced death with a bitter smile. Because he knew that in front of Boing, escaping was completely futile. Boing pointed at Yumu Chun. No. I am unresigned, I cannot die. Yumu Chun shouted loudly. In the moment between life and death, he took out an immortal Gu. Immortal zombie Boing's movements froze. His face started to show a struggling expression. Yumu Chun's heart was pounding loudly, he started at Boing's changing face anxiously. Immortal zombie Boing's expression turned from impassive to confused, he showed pain, hatred, and sadness, he was like a traffic light that was rapidly changing in color. Eventually, his expression turned lively, there was some intelligence shining in his eyes, it was like a person with dementia suddenly recovering his senses. He looked at his hand, and looked around at the brutal bloody scene. In the end, he looked towards Yumu Chun, asking hesitantly, "You are?" Yumu Chun's body was full of cold sweat, he replied weakly like he had lost all his strength, "You are finally awake, Mo Yao, it seems that I made the right gamble. It was so close, so close." It turned out that the remnant soul inside immortal zombie Boing's body was Mo Yao's remnant soul. Yumu Chun's immortal Gu awakened Mo Yao's remnant soul, it caused the heavens will which was inside the immortal zombie's mind to be pushed out. Without the manipulation of heaven's will, immortal zombie Boing stopped attacking. Yumu Chun took several deep breaths as he continued, "Remember our conversation back then," in order to revive Boing. Boing. Hearing her lover's name, Mo Yao's remnant soul shook. She manipulated the immortal zombie body, nodding as she interrupted Yumu Chun, "Then what should I do now?" Yumu Chun looked at Seven-Star Child and Song Zixing's corpses, sighing. If they were still alive, together with Yumu Chun, the three of them could use an immortal killer move and teleport all of the immortals to Central Continent's northeast area. Heavenly Lotus sect was in control of that area. But now that Seven-Star Child and Song Zixing were dead, Yumu Chun could only settle for dealing with combat immortal sect, giving up on attacking Heavenly Lotus sect. I hope that they can be stalled. Yumu Chun took a glance in Heavenly Court's direction, feeling deeply worried. Heavenly Court, Heaven Overseeing Tower. Heaven Overseeing Tower Lord's expression was dark, he was filled with anger. He looked at the image, Yumu Chun cooperated with immortal zombie Boing and was going to attack one of the 10 great ancient sects of Central Continent, Combat Immortal Sect, he could no longer watch idly. Even though he was a Gu immortal from Heavenly Lotus sect, Combat Immortal Sect was still a sect underneath Heavenly Court. Right now, immortal zombie Boing had awakened, Combat Immortal Sect was in danger. Only Heavenly Court Gu immortals could save them. Heaven Overseeing Tower Lord flew out of Heaven Overseeing Tower, summoning Lian Jiusheng and Bai Chen Tian. An issue has occurred in Falling Heavenly River, Bai Tsang Shui is dead, Boing revived as an immortal zombie and is attacking Combat Immortal Sect. We have to reinforce them now. The two immortals were extremely shocked, Heaven Overseeing Tower Lord's words contained information that was simply too hard to believe. Go. The two immortals were only stunned momentarily. Immediately after, they reacted and the three immortals used Heavenly Court's teleportation Gu formation and appeared at Combat Immortal Sect's base in a moment. Looking at the northwest direction, the sky was clear as a grand sword light flew over rapidly. A battle of rank 8s was right before their eyes. Southern border, Light Mountain. Light Mountain was more than 2.5 kilometers tall. The light path Gu worms produced on the mountain were well known over the whole of southern border. This mountain had been in the control of a single force for the last 1,000 years. Xiao clan. Rumors had it that southern border's Xiao clan and western desert's Xiao clan were of the same origin. 1,000 years ago, there was an internal conflict within western desert's Xiao clan, resulting in the losing side leaving and moving to southern border. Southern border's Xiao clan was once a super force. But its final remaining Gu immortal, Xiao clan's supreme elder, had not appeared for the last 100 years. It caused Xiao clan to fall from a super force to a large-scale force. Xiao clan's current leader, Xiao Shan, stood on a mountain slope. He looked at Xiao clan's main base partway up the mountain as he showed dejection and hatred in his eyes. A figure ran up the mountain rapidly, landing beside Xiao Shan, paying respects to him. Xiao Zifeng greets Lord Clan leader. That Wu Hui, is he still causing trouble? Xiao Shan asked in a low voice. Clan elder Xiao Zifeng lowered his head, reporting to clan leader, Wu Hui is still screaming in the hall, requesting us to hand over the culprit that killed his son. The other elders are still holding the ground, don't worry clan leader. Xiao Shan snorted coldly. He gritted his fists. Wu Hui's son was the one with ill intentions, trying to target Xiao Chui'er. My daughter was just defending herself. This Wu Hui is actually using Wu clan to cause a ruckus in Xiao clan's discussion hall. Clan leader, all will be fine if we endure this. Wu Hui is not a problem, but Wu clan is very powerful, we cannot resist them. Xiao Zifeng quickly urged. Xiao Shan's clenched fists loosened. He sighed deeply, his face was full of fatigue and bitterness. He waved to Xiao Zifeng, forget it, I will hide at the back of the mountain for the time being. Xiao Zifeng took his leave, vanishing into the forest below. Xiao Shan sighed at the sky again. His mind was filled with gloominess and anger. He could not calm himself. But at this moment, he suddenly heard a voice resounding in his mind. Come here, my descendant. Who is it? Xiao Shan was suspicious and uncertain. This voice spoke again, come here, my descendant. This voice was very familiar to Xiao Shan. He followed the voice's direction, entering deep into the region at the back of the mountain, until he reached Xiao clan's forbidden area. This is Xiao clan's forbidden area. Even as the leader of Xiao clan, I have no authority to enter it. Xiao Shan stopped moving. He was very troubled. That voice rang in his mind again, my descendant, you inherited my bloodline, why are you so timid? I am Xiao clan's ancestor, a Gu immortal of Xiao clan, quickly come and receive my inheritance, the mission to strengthen our clan is yours to bear. Xiao Shan's eyes shined, his body was trembling in agitation. Gu immortal. Xiao clan's ancestor. Were the rumors true? My Xiao clan has had a Gu immortal before. This voice is so familiar to me. I am a rank 5 peak stage Gu master, other than Gu immortals, who in this world can transmit their voices into my mind directly. But this is forbidden area in the clan. Anyone who steps into this place will be exiled from the clan, even as the leader, I am no exception. Xiao Shan thought of this and clenched his fists tightly. He was engaged in an intense internal struggle. No, I must get the ancestors' inheritance. Wu Hui has caused our Xiao clan to lose face. If Wu clan voices out their support of Wu Hui, will I be able to protect my daughter? Wu clan is so overbearing and forceful, rumors says that they have Wu clan's Gu immortals backing them. If I can receive the inheritance and become a Gu immortal, I will definitely be able to raise Xiao clan's reputation and change everything. Xiao Shan's face shined with determination. He hesitated no longer, he walked into the forbidden area. Under the guidance of the voice, he reached a cave, seeing an immortal Gu inside the cave. Before he reacted, the immortal Gu turned into a mystical light and fused into his body. This Gu worm's aura is preventing me from moving at all through power alone. Is this a legendary immortal Gu? Xiao Shan was surprised and joyful. But when he inspected his body, the immortal Gu was nowhere to be seen. He could not find it anywhere. And at this time, the voice in his head vanished completely. Xiao Shan felt trepidation and deep suspicion as he walked out of the mountain's forbidden area. Brother, right now, Wu clan's elder is here to cause trouble, but you as the leader violated our rules and sneaked into our clan's forbidden area. You are not fit to be the clan leader. Xiao Meng suddenly appeared, bringing with him a larger number of Xiao clan elders. Xiao Shan realized the situation was turning bad. He knew that his twin brother had great ambitions, he had been coveting his position as clan leader. This is not what you think. Xiao Shan wanted to explain himself, but he could not explain himself clearly. He was unwilling to casually mention the Gu immortal inheritance, he was afraid that other forces or experts would try to take it away by force. Your explanations are just excuses. According to the clan rules, you are no longer a member of Xiao clan. The position of clan leader is mine. Xiao Meng shouted, his expression was ruthless and furious, excitement and ambition was hidden deep inside his eyes. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 963, Tian Mountain. Chapter 963, Tian Mountain. Translator. Atlas Studios. Editor. Atlas Studios. The speed of the sword light was beyond belief, as it cut through the air. However, Heavenly Pool, the location of Heavenly Lotus sect, was still far away beyond the horizon. The sword light dissipated, revealing Bo Qing's immortal zombie body and Yumu Chun. The immortal zombie Bo Qing, which was controlled by Mo Yao's remnant soul, was now frowning with a sharp gaze, as he used sword light to sweep the surroundings. The sword light was incomparably sharp, everywhere it went, space rippled and illusions shattered, revealing the true scene. However, a breath of time later, the true scenery was covered by layers and layers of illusions again. This is Heavenly Lotus Sect's Immortal Gu House, Illusion Garden, which is built on the foundation of Illusion Path and was created over 300 years ago by Illusion Demon Immortal Huang Xiao. Yumu Chun immediately explained. Bo Qing's immortal zombie body nodded, sighing, every age brings forth new geniuses. It seems many geniuses have appeared in Central Continent after my main body's death. Yumu Chun spoke, Illusion Demon Immortal has already died, this immortal Gu house could beguile and trap us so stealthily that we were only able to realize now, the person who is controlling it should have a very high cultivation. Just as he said this, Heaven Overseeing Tower Lord, Bai Chen Tian and Lian Jiuxing appeared. Escaping fate is already a great sin. Now, you are thinking of attacking the sects under Heavenly Court, this is unpardonable. Heaven Overseeing Tower Lord immediately shouted. You talk too much. Immortal zombie Bo Qing was furious, he waved his arm, a terrifying sword light quickly slashed. Heaven Overseeing Tower Lord, Bai Chen Tian and Lian Jiuxing cried out as they activated their immortal killer moves. The sword light was unstoppable, it broke all the killer moves of the three immortals, its might had decreased for the most part in doing this but it still was able to charge towards them. The three immortals disappeared without a trace, evading this strike. Cowards! Immortal zombie Bo Qing snorted, extremely displeased. Yumu Chun's eyes shined with sharp radiance, but he let out a sigh of relief inwardly. The three Heavenly Court immortals were controlling the Immortal Gu House Illusion Garden, combining the strength of 3 rank 8s, using this to be able to trap Bo Qing's immortal zombie body and Yumu Chun in it. Time passed, several days later. Southern border, on the nameless mountain. Bam bam bam. 3 explosions resounded, and bright light blossomed. Xiao Meng was sent flying, blood spurted out from his mouth while in the air. Bam! A muffled sound echoed. He did not crash on the ground, but was instead caught by the elders behind him with some difficulty. Defeated. Xiao Meng's face was pale as paper, he opened his eyes wide, staring fixedly at Xiao Shan with hatred and anger. Behind Xiao Shan stood 2 demonic path Gu masters, both rank 5 experts, one tall and fat, another short and thin. Several days ago, Xiao Shan had set foot in the forbidden area at the back of Light Mountain, breaking Xiao clan's rules, and had to be punished. Xiao Meng took this chance to seize authority and kill Xiao Shan. Xiao Shan ran as quickly as he could, while Xiao Meng hunted him down with the elders. Their chase had brought them to this nameless mountain peak, Xiao Shan was in a hopeless situation with no way out. Just as he was about to be killed by Xiao Mang, two demonic path Gu masters descended from the sky and saved him. Xiao Mang was filled with anger at having all his efforts go to waste at the last moment. He pushed away the hands of the elders supporting him as he stood up, shouting at Xiao Shan, sure enough, you were harboring evil intentions. As a clan leader of the righteous path, you were secretly colluding with demonic path Gu masters. Xiao Shan threw his head back and laughed loudly, his laughter filled with grief and indignation. I really misjudged you. For power, you were actually willing to kill me. You have such a vicious heart. It is so funny that I always treated you as my only close relative in the world. You can distort the facts as you like, but I believe that others will easily be able to discern the truth. Lord Xiao Mang, the enemy's strength is great, we should retreat. Right, we have enough time. Xiao Shan is heavily injured and near death, but the two rank 5 demonic path Gu masters behind him are in good condition. The elders tried to quietly persuade him. Humph. Xiao Mang spat out some blood and said with disdain, those two are also nothing but stray dogs, their cultivation might be high but they don't have many Gu worms, what are you afraid of? Although he said this, Xiao Mang also knew that he would be unable to kill his own elder brother, Xiao Shan, today. The dark light in his eyes flickered as he internally pondered, right now, I already hold the upper hand and also have the basis of righteousness on my side. There is no need to go all out. After returning to Light Mountain, I can inherit the position of clan leader. At that time, I can use my identity in the righteous path to issue a warrant and bounty for Xiao Shan's head. Xiao Shan is without a clan now, and with the righteous path's warrant, he can only live as a fugitive with his strength decreasing constantly. It will be wiser if I bide my time and kill him in the future. With these thoughts, Xiao Mang did not stubbornly persist. Xiao Shan, you traitor of the righteous path, you will surely die like a dog. For now, I will spare your life, just you wait, I will come to take it in the future. Let's go. After leaving behind these vicious words, Xiao Mang and the elders cautiously retreated. He was also injured but he still had ample strength left. The two demonic path Gu masters did not have many Gu worms and so did not dare to go on a reckless chase, letting them leave. Brother Xiao, we meet again. The tall and fat rank 5 demonic path Gu master was called Sun Pang Hu. After he saw Xiao Mang had left, he looked at Xiao Shan with tears in his eyes. The short and thin rank 5 Gu master was called Zhou Xingxing. He was supporting Xiao Shan's shoulder while activating a healing Gu worm. Talk about the past later, heal brother Zhao's injuries first. Xiao Shan's heavy injuries were quickly stabilized under the efforts of these two Gu masters. Xiao Shan had an ashen expression as he heaved a deep sigh. It is fortunate the two of you were here to help, otherwise I would have died here. But my younger brother is ruthless, he will definitely try to come after me again. He won't rest until he kills me. I can heal these injuries myself. Both of you leave, I don't want to implicate you too. What are you talking about? Back then I was saved by you. My life is yours, brother Xiao. Right. In the past, I had slaughtered an enemy's family for revenge, but was caught by brother Xiao. When you heard my story, you let me go that very night. This kindness has always been engraved in my mind. Sun Pang Hu and Zhou Xingxing spoke fervently and sincerely. Neither of us will leave you. If Xiao Mang wants to battle, he can come, I will fight him to the end. Sun Pang Hu and Zhou Xingxing were extremely firm in their attitude. Xiao Shan was very moved, his eyes started getting moist with tears. Sigh, over these years, I have understood this. Who says demonic path Gu masters are all ungrateful and unkind? Instead, the hypocrites who put on false pretenses of kindness can be seen everywhere in the righteous path. Brother Xiao is correct. Many of us in the demonic path stay true to our nature, and the righteous path go through all possible means to kill us. Since the righteous path won't accept you, we will be a team from now on, and roam the world as part of the demonic path. Sun Pang Hu spoke boldly. Xiao Shan fell into silence. He still had the mindset and ideals of the righteous path embedded in him, and he did not want to join the demonic path. He knew there was an immortal Gu hidden in him, he still wanted to restore his position in Xiao clan. Zhou Xingxing was observing his expression. Brother, you may not understand. When people hear how you were expelled out of your clan and are being hunted by an insidious relative, many good people will come to help you. Brother, you have been just, upright and have aided people in need over these years, saving others from disasters without consideration for whether they belonged in the righteous or demonic path. Everyone will be willing to help you, willing to fight for you. Xiao Shan frowned, but did not respond. At this moment, the voice appeared in his mind again. Fool. Why do you need to rigidly mind the difference between righteous and demonic? Since you inherited my immortal Gu, you have the ability to create your own Xiao clan and lead it to prosperity. I will give you a task now, listen carefully. Xiao Shan was excited, and listened carefully. The voice in his mind told him that only by passing this test, he could truly earn the inheritance, getting the immortal Gu and obtaining the method to become a Gu immortal. Gather Gu masters at this mountain and create a fortified village, and fight off any invading righteous path enemies. As long as it can be maintained for 100 days, I can pass the test, obtaining the immortal Gu and becoming a Gu immortal. Xiao Shan's excitement was hard to describe. He clenched his fists and his eyes shined brightly. Good, then let's go all out. Let these so-called righteous path people look at our might. Xiao Shan suddenly spoke boldly. Sun Panghu and Zhou Xingxing were very happy. After discussing for a while more, they felt a close affinity with each other, talking and drinking harmoniously. Xiao Shan saw the timing was right and suggested becoming sworn brothers. Sun Panghu and Zhou Xingxing exclaimed that this was a wonderful thing. Immediately, they chopped off a chicken's head, put drops of the blood into a single bowl of wine, before they all drank and used Gu to make an oath. After they became sworn brothers, Xiao Shan's face also regained some rosiness. He stood up and faced the breeze of the mountain as he looked at the scenery in front of him. He sighed, the Xiao Shan of the righteous path from yesterday is dead, today, the one standing here is Xiao Shan of the demonic path. This place and I have a fated connection, it allowed me to run into the two of you, this is an arrangement of heaven. I want to build a new village on this mountain, we will welcome any demonic path Gu masters. Let's work together and band up to resist the righteous path clans. Sun Panghu's face flushed with excitement, giving a thumbs up as he praised, Brother, you are truly a great hero with high morals, this is such a grand course of action. Zhou Xingxing spat out saliva, speaking with a dark and ruthless look, screw it, I have been hunted everywhere by the righteous path over these years, living a life of a fugitive, I have been dissatisfied with this for a long time. Brother, I support you, we will do it like that. My good brothers. Xiao Shan grabbed the arms of Sun Panghu and Zhou Xingxing, saying, the demonic path is filled with mutual suspicion, if we are to accomplish this, we need to set aside our prejudices and doubts, and believe others, abiding by a spirit of loyalty and brotherhood. Our village shall be called Tian Village. This mountain shall be called Tian Mountain. Far away, Fang Yuan sighed as he observed all these events. Indeed, this nameless mountain that hid the immortal Gu house, graceful chaotic dual stage, and the rank 8 great strength true martial immortal zombie was Tian Mountain. He had already recognized at the moment he saw this mountain. It was just that he had not expected the true reason for the battle of Tian Mountain in his previous life to be this. My status was too low back then, my vision was only limited to the mortal world. There are so many hidden details to history, who obtained the immortal Gu house in my previous life. Fang Yuan was filled with the desire to explore this. His gaze moved down again, piercing through the soil, inspecting the immortal Gu house deep under the earth. Graceful chaotic dual stage was suppressing the great strength true martial immortal zombie, it was extremely strong and the forbidden zone for immortals was caused by its strength seeping to the outside. Clearly, it contained the mysteries of food path, the Gu worms that formed the immortal Gu house were full and in excellent condition. And that rank 8 immortal zombie, although possessing the great strength true martial physique, its main cultivation was wisdom path. He naturally was not willing to be suppressed, and used a certain killer move, attempting to use his battle will to refine the immortal Gu house. He did not succeed. His soul thoroughly died, only leaving behind an empty shell of a body. But he did not completely fail either. There were large quantities of his battle will in the immortal Gu house. These battle wills were already purified by the immortal Gu house's strength, becoming pure and ownerless battle will. When battles occurred on Tian Mountain, the intentions of Gu masters to fight would form battle will, and resonate with the battle will in the immortal Gu house. The pure battle will would then gradually turn into the Gu master's individual battle will. If someone turned all the battle will in the immortal Gu house into their own battle will, they would complete the unfinished last step of the rank 8 immortal zombie, that is, refining the immortal Gu house and becoming the true owner of the immortal Gu house. The gambling contest agreed to by the southern border Gu immortals revolved around this point. First of all, the forbidden zone for immortals had already expanded to 10,000 Li. Gu immortals were unable to personally make a move, so they could only select mortals as their representatives. Afterwards, they would form a battlefield. Only continuous fierce battles could stimulate the battle will of mortal Gu masters. Then, the bodies of mortal Gu masters would be tampered with via a simple wisdom path technique. Finally, the pure battle will in the immortal Gu house would convert into the Gu immortals' personal battle will. In conclusion, Gu immortals would choose certain mortals and turn these mortals into tools, which the Gu immortal would use to indirectly refine graceful chaotic dual stage. Xiao was the person selected by the supreme elder of Xiao clan. On his body was not only the immortal Gu of Xiao clan's supreme elder, there was also immortal essence and large amounts of the supreme elder's battle will. It was just that Xiao was only a mortal, only able to see the vague image of an immortal Gu, and had no awareness of the truth. Naturally, besides Xiao Meng was similarly a pawn of Xiao clan's supreme elder. If it were not arranged by Xiao clan's supreme elder, how could Xiao Meng coincidentally run into Xiao when he stepped foot in the forbidden area? These two rank 5 Gu masters, standing at the peak of the world of Gu masters, were both in the dark, both being played in the hands of Xiao clan's supreme elder. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 964, Guo Lao borrows money. Chapter 964, Guo Lao borrows money. Translator. Atlas Studios. Editor. Atlas Studios. Xiao forced Xiao clan's reinforcements into retreat, and after naming this mountain Tian Mountain, he began to invite demonic path members from all over, building up his forces. Before he was expelled from the clan, he was known for his grand morals, his social network was extremely large and he had been popular in both the righteous and demonic path. Xiao nature was straightforward, he clearly separated kindness and hatred, and emphasized close connections and loyalty. On the other side, Xiao clan was weakening, suppressed and pressured by Wu clan and other forces from all sides. Sometimes, even demonic path Gu masters could not be offended, especially those lone warriors with rank 4 and rank 5 cultivation. These demonic path experts were different from the righteous path experts. Demonic path experts were loners, acting without scruples, but righteous path experts were bound by morals, family, reputation and so on. Xiao clan had established a caravan years ago to strengthen themselves. These wandering demonic path experts were treated with even more caution compared to other clans. Over these last years, Xiao let these demonic path Gu masters go, or roped them in if he could, but if it came down to killing, he would do it with all his strength and as fast as possible. Occasionally, he even aided some lone cultivators or demonic cultivators financially. Thus, although he was a righteous path clan leader, he had obtained the approval of many Gu masters of the demonic path. All these gave Xiao a strong rallying force. When the news of him creating a fortified village was spread, there were many immediate responses. A few days later, several demonic path experts traveled from far away to join Xiao. Moreover, the Gu immortal of southern border intensified the situation in secret, so as to easily put their own pawns in the battlefield. Thus, more and more demonic path Gu masters and lone cultivators started joining Tian village. In just 6 to 7 days, Tian village already had over 30 members. Such a speed made even Xiao shocked and surprised. As the number of people grew, they formed an organization. Any organization needed to have distinctions in status. In the world of Gu masters, the strong were always revered. Among all these people, Xiao not only had the highest strength, he also had the highest reputation. He was chosen by everyone as Tian village's leader, stably placed at the highest ranking. His two sworn brothers, Sun Panghu and Zhou Xing, respectively were placed at the second and third ranks. After all, they were rank 5 experts, having the highest strength among others. As for the other people, the vast majority were rank 2 and rank 3, with few at rank 4. Their statuses were arranged simply according to their cultivation and strength. In a mountain cave, Fang Yuan was drinking wine with a Gu immortal. This demonic path rank 6 Gu immortal was short but had a large head. He was an old man and his name was Guo Lao. "Here, brother Xianxia, give it a sip. How is the taste of my melon wine?" Guo Lao enthusiastically urged Fang Yuan to drink. Fang Yuan knew Guo Lao's intention in coming. Without saying anything, he drank a mouthful and nodded, critiquing, "Not bad, not bad." Although he said, "Not bad," but Fang Yuan's expression was impassive and it was clear he had spoken only half-heartedly. Guo Lao was observing him. He chuckled and pointed outside, "I wonder what opinion brother Xianxia has towards this grand contest of southern border." Fang Yuan calmly replied, "Given that it concerns who graceful chaotic duel stage will belong to, no one will yield a step. Since everyone is participating in this contest and has joined the agreement, putting forth their wagers, there should not be anyone who will cause trouble." In the past, it was always the righteous path who suppressed the demonic path. Whether it be in the mortal Gu master world or the Gu immortal world. But right now was an exception. The appearance of the immortal Gu house completely shook the world of southern borders Gu immortals. To seize the immortal Gu house, demonic and lone immortals emerged, forming a huge force that gave the righteous path no choice but to compromise and set up this large gambling contest. The content of the wager was to select mortals as pawns who would participate in the battle between the righteous and demonic paths in Tian Mountain, helping the Gu immortal behind them to refine the immortal Gu house. But to participate in this huge contest, there were some conditions. Any Gu immortal that wanted to participate in this gambling contest had to make a wager. Those who made larger wagers could arrange pawns with higher cultivation and enter the battle earlier. Finally, when the gambling contest ends, all the wagers would be redistributed. Each Gu immortal would be ranked according to the amount of battle will they refined. Whoever had higher quantities of battle will in the immortal Gu house would accordingly have higher returns. Naturally, one that refined over 50% of the battle will would be the winner who could activate the immortal Gu house, obtaining the highest returns from their bet. But other Gu immortals would also be able to get some profits. They might even be able to get great returns from small bets, earning a huge fortune. This condition could be considered to be superb. It was because of this that all the Gu immortals participating in the gambling contest, be it righteous path, demonic path or lone cultivators, whether they had enmity or resentment, they all subconsciously worked together to maintain this unrivaled gambling contest. Anyone who attempted to play dirty tricks or acted shamelessly would have their wagers completely confiscated. Gu immortals who arrived later could also join in, but they had to take part in the gambling. And as the gambling contest progressed, if Gu immortals wanted to raise their bets, they could do so. And this demonic immortal Guo Lao in front of Fang Yuan was a person who wanted to raise his bet. But he lacked the capital to do so. Over these last days, he went around borrowing money, so everyone knew of it. This time, he intentionally came to find Fang Yuan. Fang Yuan was giving him the cold shoulder. Guo Lao had no choice but to take the initiative to mention the gambling contest. Fang Yuan had only given a casual analysis, but Guo Lao squinted and gave a thumbs up, exaggeratedly smiling. "Brother Xianxia, you are right, you have hit the nail on the head. The rules of this contest cannot be broken by anyone. If anyone breaks them, it will be akin to making Gu immortals of the whole of southern border their enemies. So they need to earn capital and participate honestly in the contest. Just look at it, the contest has just started, but Xiao Clan's Supreme Elder is already at the lead. Xiao Shan is his pawn, and from the previous battle of Xiao Shan and Xiao Mang, Xiao Clan's Supreme Elder has become the first to refine the battle will in the Immortal Gu house. As long as Xiao Shan doesn't die, his lead will continue increasing. Fang Yuan glanced at Guo Lao. Xiao Shan is a rank 5 Gu master and was the first to enter the mountain. Xiao Clan's Supreme Elder naturally will have a huge advantage. But, he has also paid a large price for this. Although he is only a rank 7 Gu immortal, his wagers are the highest, to the extent that even rank 8 Gu immortals cannot match it. Guo Lao nodded repeatedly, and grinned, revealing his yellow teeth. Yes, the earlier we can place our pawns in Tian Mountain, the more beneficial it would be. Of course, the cultivation of these pawns need to be ensured. They should at least be rank 4, otherwise they will likely die there and we will just suffer losses. Brother Xingying, I won't conceal it from you, I really hate not being able to put myself as a wager. I am a bit short on funds right now. Brother Xingying, could you lend me some immortal materials? Wait till this is over, and I will return double the amount. Fang Yuan smiled, sure. Guo Lao was joyous, and was just about to say his thanks, when Fang Yuan said, but we need to set a vow. This is natural, and it is a must as well. Guo Lao nodded quickly. Fang Yuan continued, also, take out an Immortal Gu as collateral. Guo Lao's joyful expression immediately stiffened. Brother Xingying, is this a joke? If I had an Immortal Gu, why would I go for this Immortal Gu house? Fang Yuan's expression also changed. With a face filled with coldness, he glared violently and spoke, Guo Lao, you don't even have one Immortal Gu, but are actually scheming for this Immortal Gu house. Don't you think you are indulging in a wild fantasy? Aren't you too greedy? Xingying, you. Guo Lao was just about to flare up, but suddenly he sensed an aura of Immortal Gu from Fang Yuan's body, no longer concealed. He actually has Immortal Gu. Guo Lao's heart immediately sank. Many rank 6 Gu immortals did not have even one Immortal Gu. But Fang Yuan did. This surpassed Guo Lao's expectations. As far as he was concerned, any Gu immortal with Immortal Gu would have some reputation. But Xingying clearly did not. He had taken Fang Yuan to be a weak lone immortal, cultivating bitterly in some unvisited area of the world. But Fang Yuan had Immortal Gu. This caused fear to emerge in Guo Lao's heart. With an Immortal Gu, the Gu immortal's battle strength would often rise by a large extent. Xingying, with Immortal Gu, was not someone Guo Lao could handle. Thus, he did not vent his anger and finally forced a smile as he cupped his fists towards Fang Yuan. I was too abrupt and rude, Brother Xingying, please don't mind it. Fang Yuan gave a cold snort, you can leave. I am leaving now, farewell. Guo Lao smiled as he retreated a few steps, before turning around and leaving, not daring to linger. When he walked out of the cave, the smile on his face disappeared, replaced by shame and anger. His gaze was cold, as he roared in his mind, humph. Having Immortal Gu is indeed amazing. I shall remember this humiliation. Wait for the day I have an Immortal Gu, I will return this humiliation back to you. Inside the cave, Fang Yuan was thinking. Guo Lao's matter made him aware of the gambling mentality of many bottom-tier Gu immortals. Most of these people did not have Immortal Gu, so they had an extreme thirst for the Immortal Gu house. They all knew that success could not be built on small efforts, but when it concerned themselves, who did not want to soar to the sky with a step and get rich overnight? The gambling contest in front of them gave these Gu immortals an extremely favorable environment to compete in. If it were a normal situation, for instance, finding wild Immortal Gu, the Gu immortals would engage in fighting each other. These bottom-tier Gu immortals with no Immortal Gu had low battle strength. How could they compete with other Gu immortals? But what this gambling contest examined were other aspects, not the Gu immortals' own battle strength. This gave hopes of success to the bottom-tier Gu immortals. Examples like Guo Lao were not few in number. Fang Yuan then thought of Xiao Clan's Supreme Elder. According to the news, this rank 7 Gu immortal was facing a huge problem. He had barely gotten past extreme danger in his previous tribulation, and his strength had yet to recover. The next tribulation, which would be even more powerful, was already approaching. Xiao clan only had one Gu immortal remaining, that was him. Without another Gu immortal support, he would not be able to face this tribulation by himself, and his death was almost certain. However, this gamble gave him hope of surviving. If he obtained the immortal Gu house, he would have huge assurance in getting through this tribulation. Thus, he brought out all he had and went all in on this gamble, placing the highest wagers. These wagers gave him the qualifications to select 2 pawns. Moreover, both the pawns had rank 5 cultivation. Among them, Xiao Shan was the first to enter the area of the contest, the other, Xiao Mang, would enter the stage after some more time. Xiao Shan belonged to the demonic path and Xiao Mang belonged to the righteous path. No matter what the result between the righteous and demonic paths was, or how the process went, Xiao clan's supreme elder was well prepared with having these 2 arranged. The 2 rank 5 pawns had a low likelihood of death. As time passed, the advantage of Xiao clan's supreme elder would continue growing larger. This time, I intentionally leaked out an immortal Gu's aura so as to let other Gu immortals feel sufficiently cautious and not take me as a weakling. I need to properly participate in this gambling contest. The information exposed from the gambling contest is extremely valuable. It is a most precious opportunity for me to get close to the world of Southern Borders Gu immortals and understand their structure. As for this gamble, maybe I can personally take action. A sharp light flashed past Fang Yuan's eyes. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 965, Battle of Tian Mountain, 1/2. Chapter 965, Battle of Tian Mountain, 1/2. Translator. Atlas Studios. Editor. Atlas Studios. A forbidden zone for immortals, that was the power of graceful chaotic dual stage. This zone now covered thousands of li around Tian Mountain. Any Gu immortal who went in would face huge suppression. If they entered deeply, their lives would be in danger. Before the gambling contest was set up, the southern border Gu immortals had probed it themselves. But even the rank 8 Gu immortals returned empty-handed. And because there was the outside pressure of having too many competitors, this shocking gambling contest was established. But Fang Yuan could keenly sense that this forbidden zone had a loophole. This loophole was Immortal Gu. Immortal Gu could be used in the forbidden zone, but their power was greatly reduced. Xiao clan's supreme elder placed an Immortal Gu in Xiao Shan's body, and left behind immortal essence secretly to protect his life to an extent. After all, Xiao Shan was a bloodline descendant of Xiao clan's supreme elder. Immortal Gu can be used in the forbidden zone, but Gu immortals cannot enter. Does this forbidden zone for immortals target only the bodies of Gu immortals? Fang Yuan thought of this conjecture. Then, what was the difference between Immortal Gu and Gu immortals? Evidently, Dao marks were not the answer. Immortal Gu were vessels containing Dao marks, while Gu immortals also had Dao marks in their bodies. Fang Yuan quickly thought of an answer: immortal apertures. Maybe immortal apertures were the most crucial difference. Immortal Gu would not have immortal apertures, but Gu immortals definitely had them. If the forbidden zone targeted immortal apertures, then maybe Fang Yuan could make use of this loophole and attend the Battle of Tian Mountain in person. I am different from others, I have 2 apertures. Spring-autumn cicada is sealed in my first, mortal aperture. My second aperture is dead, most of my Gu worms are stored inside. If I can seal my immortal aperture and become a mortal rank 5 Gu master again, will I be able to enter the forbidden zone for immortals? The more Fang Yuan thought about it, the more hopeful he became. Even though he did not have the method to seal an immortal aperture, he had the help of Wisdom Gu, and with his Grandmaster attainment level in Wisdom Path, he could deduce it himself. Furthermore, I have the method to transplant immortal apertures, and succeeded in moving star form blessed land. This is very helpful as reference for my deduction. Right, I also can look into Blazing Heaven Demoness Fire Path aperture taking method. Maybe I can gain even more inspiration from it. No, I do not need to focus on her aperture taking method. She created this fire path method after benefiting from an inheritance of old immortal Kong Ju. Maybe I can get old immortal Kong Ju's research gains from her directly. Fang Yuan's thoughts were churning rapidly. Old immortal Kong Ju, a publicly recognized refinement path supreme grandmaster, being on par with old eccentric Tian Nan and long hair ancestor. He had the deepest research in immortal apertures and mortal apertures. In terms of depth, it was yet to be surpassed by another. If he could obtain a portion of his inheritance, Fang Yuan's deduction of the immortal aperture sealing method would receive substantial and crucial help. Fang Yuan did not invest much into this gambling contest. According to the terms of the gambling contest, he could only choose a rank 3 upper stage Gu master, and this Gu master could only ascend Tian Mountain after 3 months. He had a lot of immortal materials and had much capital to spare. He could bet heavily. But he had just arrived. If he acted rashly, other Gu immortals might covet his wealth and place attention on him. It would be dangerous if any rank 8 Gu immortals targeted Fang Yuan. Thankfully, during the process of this gambling contest, the bet could be raised at any time. The rank 8 great strength true martial immortal zombie was important for Fang Yuan's plans. Other than that, he was also enticed by graceful chaotic dual stage. This was an immortal Gu house after all. Furthermore, this immortal Gu house involved secrets of food path. After so many years, not a single Gu worm had died of hunger. If he could obtain these secrets of food path, perhaps Fang Yuan would be able to settle his problem of feeding immortal Gu more easily. Fang Yuan stealthily left the surroundings of Tian Mountain, using fixed immortal travel to return to Hu immortal blessed land secretly. In the following period of time, he kept his attention on the battle of Tian Mountain while deducing the immortal aperture sealing method enthusiastically. The deduction of the method was very rapid, as expected and worthy of a rank 9 immortal Gu. Even though Fang Yuan was only using the light of wisdom, its help towards him was immense. Over a month later, news of the righteous and demonic battle of Tian Mountain had spread far and wide. The attentions of almost all experts and large forces had been drawn on this battle in southern border. The first wave of attack since Xiaoshan created Tian village arrived. This was an expert sent by Wu clan, the super force closest to Tian Mountain. Wu Shentong. Wu clan elder, rank 4 peak stage, enslavement path Gu master. Enslavement path Gu masters excelled in fighting large numbers of enemies, but were more vulnerable if personally targeted and fought. Thus, Wu Shentong had 3 rank 4 Gu masters around him in protection. 2 of these 3 rank 4 Gu masters were clan leaders of villages that had submitted to Wu clan. The third was a Wu clan elder assigned to protect Wu Shentong. The beast group attacked Tian Mountain like a tide. The demonic path side had just created Tian village when it got engulfed by a beast group. Many demonic path Gu masters died, but relying on Xiao Shan, Sun Panghu, and Zhou Xingxing, these 3 rank 5 Gu masters, Wu Shentong retreated with heavy injuries, and 2 rank 4 righteous path Gu masters lost their lives. Even though Wu Shentong's attack was repelled, the newly created Tian village suffered a huge blow because of this. Wu Shentong remaining alive caused Xiao Shan and the others to feel unrest. Just when the 3 of them were about to take a risk and go down the mountain in their injured states to kill Wu Shentong, a demonic path Gu master ascended the mountain. Furthermore, he brought Wu Shentong's head with him. This person was called Lu Zuanfeng. He was a rank 5 Gu master, called the Divine Thief in southern border. He had a demonic path Gu immortal backing him. He had once sneaked into Tai clan's demon suppression tower. Lu Zuanfeng relied on his infiltration methods to kill Wu Shentong and settled Tian village's crisis. The first wave of attack by the righteous path thus ended. Wu clan was unresigned. They quickly sent the second elder to battle. In fact, he was joined by 2 of Shang clan's new elders, Yan Tu and Zhu Kai Bei. During the second battle, both sides had wins and losses. They were in a deadlock. This time, Lan Meihe and Fei Yuang ascended the mountain, joining Tian village. These 2 Gu masters were not simple. They were famous flying masters in the world of southern borders Gu masters. Tian village thus had the upper hand, and the righteous path members were forced back. To resist Lan Meihe and Fei Yuan, the righteous path invited a female Gu master, Hong Fei Yu. She was also a flying master, but belonged to the righteous path. But Hong Fei Yu alone could not resist the combination of two flying masters of the demonic path. Hong Fei Yu was at the moment between life and death. When Shang clan's reinforcements rushed and arrived, it was the white light swordsman Wei Yang. Wei Yang had been nurtured by Shang Yanfei and had his aptitude raised. His cultivation level was at rank 4 initial stage. Not only did he save Hong Fei Yu, he even gained much fame. After Hong Fei Yu was heavily injured and retreated, he fought against both Lan Meihe and Fei Yuan, eventually managing to stall for enough time until more reinforcements from the righteous path came, as Lan Meihe and Fei Yuan were forced to retreat. After this battle, Wei Yang was acknowledged by both the righteous and demonic paths, joining the ranks of the flying masters. Southern Border's 3 famous flying masters became 4 famous flying masters, with Wei Yang at the top. With Wei Yang's addition, the righteous and demonic battle entered another deadlock once again. However, as the second zombie king entered Tian Mountain, enslavement path showed its might again. The righteous path lacked Wu Shentong and had no choice but to fall back. The second righteous and demonic battle came to an end. It seems that because of me, Tian Mountain's battle has undergone some changes. Fang Yuan watched as he compared it to his previous life. In the 500 years of his previous life, during this period, Tian Mountain should have held the upper hand firmly. This was because Wang Xiao joined Tian Mountain and killed many righteous path experts. He was extremely powerful and had once attempted to force Xiao Shan to give up his role in leading the demonic path. But on Sancha Mountain, Wang Xiao was killed by Fang Yuan. This caused Wang Xiao to not join Tian Mountain this time, and thus they were almost at a disadvantage against the righteous path. Thankfully for them, second zombie king arrived early and saved the demonic path's position from worsening. Second zombie king came from the Southern Border Zombie Alliance branch. He was likely the pawn of a certain Southern Border immortal zombie. He was a rank 5 peak stage Gu master. He had once left behind his inheritance on Mubei Mountain, causing the rise of an enslavement path Gu master, Ding Hao. But Ding Hao had been killed by Fang Yuan in this life. In my previous life, Ding Hao sacrificed himself to save the life of his master, second zombie king. If second zombie king encounters a mishap this time, who would save him? Fang Yuan was curious. Conflict in the Tian Mountain battle continued raging, but Fang Yuan was met with difficulty in deducing the immortal aperture sealing method. He was stuck at a certain point. He had to make use of the foundation of others to rapidly get past it. Otherwise, with just his own deductions, he would need 17 to 18 years. Fang Yuan sought help from Blazing Heaven Demonis. Blazing Heaven Demonis had part of an inheritance of old immortal Kong Ju. It was enough for Fang Yuan to get through this. But Blazing Heaven Demonis made use of the chance, asking to borrow Fang Yuan's immortal killer move, vaguely familiar face. Blazing Heaven Demonis, He Lu Lan, and Fairy Li Shan all wanted to get a share of the action. But the Southern Border Gu immortals were working together in this gambling contest. They could not interfere. They were Northern Plains Gu immortals. Once they showed up, the Southern Border Gu immortals would jointly assault them. Right now, in the 5 regions, Southern Border was the least welcoming to outsiders. Eastern Sea was the most open, followed by Central Continent. Thus, if He Lu Lan and the others wanted to interfere, they would need Fang Yuan's vaguely familiar face. Fang Yuan was unwilling to lend it, of course. Lending the immortal killer move was different from lending immortal Gu. Once the immortal killer move was lent out, the secrets in it would be learned by other Gu immortals. They would know its weaknesses and could easily develop ways to counter this immortal killer move. But Fang Yuan did not have other options and could only agree to it. He lent vaguely familiar face, but he obtained Blazing Heaven Demonis' partial inheritance of old immortal Kong Ju. Even though he paid a huge price, he got his reward rapidly. Getting past the point he was stuck, his speed in deducing the method rose again. It was smooth sailing. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know to report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 966, Battle of Tian Mountain, February 2nd. Chapter 966, Battle of Tian Mountain, February 2nd. Translator. Atlas Studios. Editor. Atlas Studios. Central Continent. Boom. Suddenly, an intense explosion broke the tranquility of the mountain valley. The aftermath of the explosion created a huge inferno that rapidly spread in all directions. In just a breath of time, the lush trees in the surroundings were destroyed, and the area became a barren desert. The 8 rank 8 Gu immortals that came from Heavenly Court gradually revealed their figures. They had formed a circle, each of them heavily injured, their gazes looking heavily at the proud and aloof figure in the center. Immortal zombie boing was standing upright and proud like a spear. He slowly moved his eyes, a sword light suddenly flickered from them. The 8 Gu immortals were terrified, 3 even subconsciously retreated a step. In the intense battle earlier, they had suffered a lot under these sword lights coming from his eyes. However, the sword light in boing's eyes died out in an instant. Afterwards, the lively light in his eyes completely dissipated. His whole body became motionless like a stone statue. Success! We finally killed the remnant soul within boing. Heavenly Court's Gu immortals let out breaths of relief, they had obtained victory in this battle. Boing was known as a pseudo-immortal venerable, but he had only left behind his corpse, and the remnant soul in it was Mo Yao's. Heavenly Court's Gu immortals targeted this weak point, using their battle tactics to completely annihilate Mo Yao's remnant soul. Without the control of the remnant soul, boing's immortal zombie body moved no longer. It has been so long since I had such a thrilling battle. A Gu immortal sighed, deeply moved. Fortunately, this immortal zombie boing had such a huge weakness, otherwise someone among us would definitely be annihilated. It is a pity we couldn't take it alive. After taking this immortal zombie body to Heavenly Court and storing it properly, I will continue my sleep. Previously, Heaven Overseeing Tower Lord, by Tian and Xianxia used an immortal Gu house, Illusion Garden, to trap immortal zombie boing and Yuan. Boing battled the 3 immortals with incredible sword path might. Heavenly Court's 3 immortals were no match for him and could only request for reinforcements. 5 Gu immortals from Heavenly Court had no choice but to come out of their rest and enter the mortal world as reinforcements. The 8 Gu immortals formed an ancient battle formation, and after over a month, they finally killed Yuan and extinguished Mo Yao's remnant soul. The battle ended, the 5 Heavenly Court Gu immortals that were awoken immediately returned to their headquarters and continued to rest. They had almost no lifespan remaining, they had to treasure every second they had. Bai Tian and Xianxia also wanted to leave, but their situation was better than the 5 immortals. They still had time to care for their descendants and sects. But, Heaven Overseeing Tower Lord gave the task of cleaning up the battlefield to Bai Tian, and persuaded Xianxia to go to the riverbed of Falling Heavenly River and search again. He now was flying towards Heavenly Court. Although we have won this battle, my unease has instead increased, and I am feeling very restless, as if an apocalypse is approaching. Standing in front of Heaven Overseeing Tower, this old rank 8 Gu immortal frowned. He stepped inside the tower and continued the previous deductions. What's going on? Soon, Heaven Overseeing Tower Lord's forehead was dripping with sweat. His gaze was extremely puzzled. There was an enormous pressure which made it difficult for him to move forward. In the past, he only needed to spend a bead of rank 8 immortal essence for each step. But this time, he did not know why, but the consumption of immortal essence had doubled. Ever since I have been in control of Heaven Overseeing Tower, there has never been such a situation. What's happening? Heaven Overseeing Tower Lord's intuition was urgently telling him, Sword Immortal boing's matter was only a prelude, and behind the scenes, there was an even stronger mastermind. I understand, it seems someone is secretly hindering me from deducing, if that is the case, then I want to succeed even more. I will walk to the top of the tower. I want to see who it is that has escaped the judgment of fate. Heaven Overseeing Tower Lord continued to climb, his expression was firm with no more puzzlement. But after he climbed 100 steps, the wall turned dark. It was like the darkest, blackest ink had spilled over the whole wall. There were no more images. Heaven Overseeing Tower Lord's heart sank. Who is it? Who is interfering with my deduction? They could actually interfere with a rank 9 immortal Gu house, Heaven Overseeing Tower, to this degree. Time continued to pass. A month later, Heaven Overseeing Tower Lord finally stepped onto the top floor of the tower. He was extremely exhausted, most of the immortal essence accumulated in his lifetime had been consumed. He looked at the wall with anticipation. After the first pitch-black wall, he no longer saw other images. However, Heaven Overseeing Tower Lord knew fate immortal Gus might extend it over the whole world and could not be blocked. The wall at the end would definitely reveal the true perpetrator behind the scenes. When he stepped on the top floor, he widened his eyes, gazing impatiently. At the next moment, his pupils shrunk down to pin size. His aged body shook intensely. The final wall was still pitch black. Darkness, incomparably deep darkness. But unlike before, in this darkness, a pair of eyes were shining. This was a pair of human eyes. But it was filled with bone-chilling coldness and terrifying killing intent. They gazed at Heaven Overseeing Tower Lord like a beast hiding in the darkness, waiting patiently for an opportunity, upon which it would charge of the darkness, causing terror over the world. You are. Heaven Overseeing Tower Lord was soaked with cold sweat, he trembled and even his teeth chattered. After a long while, he barely managed to calm down. But fear and panic still remained on his face. Crisis. A huge crisis. If this is left unchecked, even Heavenly Court will be destroyed. Immortal zombie Bo Ching was no more than a distraction for us. I must awaken many more of Heavenly Court's Gu immortals. This is a battle that decides our survival. Heaven Overseeing Tower Lord did not hesitate, he ran out of the Heaven Overseeing Tower, directly to Floating Maple Cliff. On Floating Maple Cliff, there was a giant Gu formation. Heaven Overseeing Tower Lord decisively activated the Gu formation. A sound of a bell, vast and unparalleled, immediately resounded throughout the sky. Heavenly Court shook. At the same time, in southern border. Finally, the deduction has succeeded. Fang Yuan had already taken another appearance and stepped onto Tian Mountain, his immortal aperture sealed. After obtaining a portion of old immortal Kong Ju's inheritance from Blazing Heaven Demonis, Fang Yuan did not encounter any obstacles in his deduction. Using the method of sealing the immortal aperture, Fang Yuan sealed his own immortal aperture and turned into a rank 3 Gu master, officially stepping into this huge stage. At this time, the situation on Tian Mountain had already undergone a huge change. Large numbers of Gu masters had entered both the righteous and demonic sides. The righteous path had initiated the third and fourth waves of offense, both sides suffered heavy losses. On the demonic path side, Second Zombie King had summoned many of his disciples, their zombie army giving a huge headache to the righteous path. On the righteous path side, Wei Yang and Hong Fei Yu had allied, getting an advantage over Lan Mei He and Fei Yu Wang in the aerial battles. However, Divine Dr. Xianxia was supporting the righteous path. This person was one of the 4 great doctors of southern border, extremely proficient in healing and treating wounds and illnesses. With him there, righteous path Gu masters had fewer losses, and most injuries were quickly healed, so they did not fear fighting fiercely. Xiao Shan knew if this were to continue, the righteous path would continue becoming stronger, thus he decided to make use of a diversion while taking the initiative to attack, beginning the 5th wave of battle between righteous and demonic. On the surface, he, Sun Panghu and Zhou Xing attacked, while Lu Zuanfeng was commanded to sneak towards the rear of the righteous path and try to kill Divine Dr. Xianxia. But the result was, Divine Dr. Xianxia was not killed. Instead, Shang Fuxi of the righteous path had planned for their scheme, laying an ambush and killing Second Zombie King. With second zombie king dead, the demonic path's disadvantage was quickly enlarging. Around this time, killer ghost Dr. Chojio stepped onto Tian Mountain, suppressing divine Dr. Xianxia, salvaging the situation. Chojio saved many demonic Gu masters' lives, and soon took the third highest rank. Lu's Wan Feng was ranked at second while Xiao Shan still was at first. As for Sun Pang Hu and Zhou Xingxing, they had already been squeezed out to the fourth and fifth. Because of Chojio, the demonic path could recuperate and build up strength day by day, and because one of the rising stars of the demonic path, Mo Wu Tian, had joined and challenged many to one-on-one battles, the righteous path had lost many strong warriors. Shang clan sent Dr. Su Shou, who together with divine Dr. Xianxia, managed to close the gap created by Chojio. A phantom path inheritor, Yan clan's young clan leader, Yan Jun, entered the spotlight. He sneaked into Tian Mountain and killed Chojio before swaggering off. The righteous path's morale was boosted, making another attack, beginning the sixth wave of battle between righteous and demonic. However, they fell into the demonic path's trap. Chojio had remnant life Gu, as long as his body was mostly intact, he could resurrect. After Yan Jun killed him, he had secretly resurrected while pretending to be dead, causing the righteous path to take the bait. In the sixth battle, Mo Wu Tian showed his demonic might, killing 3 rank 4 Gu masters in the chaotic battle. His fierce might surged and even Yan Jun was defeated by him and suffered heavy injuries. The righteous path retreated in defeat, but the demonic path had also incurred huge losses. Both sides temporarily rested, trying to recover their strength. During such a situation, Fang Yuan stepped onto Tian Mountain, joining Tian village. He had disguised himself as a rank 3 Gu master, and after joining, his status in Tian village was outside the top 100. The higher-ups arranged him a position of guarding an archery tower. Fang Yuan was extremely low profile, working without making any disturbances. He patiently waited for the first 3 days, and after seeing no Gu immortals had appeared to stop him, began to stealthily refine the battle will in the immortal Gu house. The number of demonic path Gu masters who had joined Tian village had already reached 600. Among these people, some were pawns of Gu immortals, while some were not. Fang Yuan was hidden among them and was not in the least bit conspicuous. He was secretly earning a fortune, rapidly refining the battle will in the immortal Gu house with his wisdom path grandmaster attainment. Other Gu immortals could only make their pawns fight and indirectly refine the battle will from this. But Fang Yuan did not need to fight, he could continue to unceasingly refine the battle will. After all, a Gu immortal was personally making a move, it naturally would be extraordinary. Day after day passed, the righteous and demonic sides were like 2 giant beasts. After taking a few breaths, their energy was restored and they began to battle again. It was the 7th wave of battle, and this was a draw again. The demonic path made a crafty scheme, cutting off the righteous path supply lines. But on the righteous path side, Shang clan leader Shang Yanfei personally arrived with his forces, and used gourmet food box Gu, providing a feast for the army, foiling the demonic path scheme. Next, the clan leaders of southern borders super forces like Yi clan, Luo clan, Yao clan and Xia clan also showed themselves, joining the battlefield. The battles were getting increasingly heated, affecting the minds of countless Gu masters and forces. But from Fang Yuan's viewpoint, it was simply another ordinary scene. Righteous and demonic battled, it looked to be extremely brilliant, but in fact the true manipulators were southern borders Gu immortals. During these last days, the Gu immortals had also clashed. Although they did not officially fight, they secretly schemed and strategized, each trying to cheat or outwit one other, making everyone on guard. Fang Yuan was able to obtain huge amounts of information from this, and his understanding of the world of southern borders Gu immortals increased at a rapid speed. He had refined large amounts of battle will, but graceful chaotic duel stage seemed like a bottomless pit. Time continued to pass, a month had gone by. On this day, old man Yanshi secretly came to the surroundings of Tian Mountain with over 10 Gu immortals. He took a deep breath, and said in a slightly shaky tone, Heavenly Court has already detected this and is preparing for an expedition to southern border. Time does not wait for anyone, we can only begin early. Whoosh! The Gu immortals behind him turned into shadows as they flew in all directions. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 967, Trapping Immortals, Tribulations Fall Like Rain. Chapter 967, Trapping Immortals, Tribulations Fall Like Rain. Translator: Atlas Studios. Editor: Atlas Studios. What's going on? At this moment, the Gu immortals of southern border, who were situated 10,000 li away from Tian mountain, looked at the sky one after another. Even the mortal Gu masters on Tian mountain also felt an indescribable chill. Rumble. A vague rumbling sound could be heard coming from the sky. Several breaths later, the rumbling got louder and louder, as if hundreds of people were beating war drums far away. Ever since Fang Yuan stepped on Tian mountain, he had been making use of every second in refining the battle will, but the commotion in the sky right now was getting louder and louder. He had no choice but to temporarily stop his work and look above. From high up in the air, he saw the sky suddenly brightening with a series of white light specks. These light specks were extremely vast in scale and densely packed together. They started to fall rapidly and powerfully down towards Tian mountain. This is the 1,000 pearl light tribulation. A Gu immortal exclaimed in shock. Wrong, the 1,000 pearl light tribulation only has 1,000 light pearls, but this tribulation has at least 100,000 light pearls. How could there be a tribulation? Many Gu immortals were baffled. Could someone be undergoing a tribulation? Most of the Gu immortals immediately looked towards Tian mountain. Fang Yuan's heart jumped, and he became extremely vigilant. Soon, he was dripping in cold sweat as he felt waves of immaterial investigative senses scanning his whole body. Although he had vaguely familiar face, the core immortal Gu of this immortal killer move was only at rank 6. It could deceive rank 6 Gu immortals, but facing the inspection of rank 7 and rank 8, there was a huge chance of being exposed. Fang Yuan was filled with anxiety before he finally let out a sigh of relief. He was not discovered. There was no discovery. The Gu immortals were surprised. They searched Tian mountain and its nearby surroundings, but did not discover any rank 5 Gu master that was facing a tribulation. Just when they were about to continue searching with even more powerful investigative methods, the 1,000 pearl light tribulation was already just above the immortals. Just in case, we can't let this tribulation affect Tian mountain. Right, let's block this tribulation. Some Gu immortals started guessing, perhaps this tribulation was caused by graceful chaotic dual stage. The southern border Gu immortals soon came to an agreement. According to the gambling agreement, if a menace appeared, the Gu immortals participating in the gambling contest would band together to obstruct it and protect their interests. Although the 1,000 pearl light tribulation was high in quantity, the Gu immortals that occupied this place had power in numbers. They included 4 rank 8, 9 rank 7 and over 10 rank 6 Gu immortals. The immortals made their moves, and soon the 1,000 pearl light tribulation was destroyed, with not even one light pearl touching the ground. It was to the extent that even some Gu immortals used their methods to draw in layers of clouds, blocking the sky of Tian mountain, and preventing the mortal Gu masters from sensing this anomaly. He. A lone cultivator rank 8 Gu immortal, Peng Shilong, stroked his beard, laughing. No matter who it is that is ascending to immortal at this moment, they are quite creative. We need to find this person. The people here are all elite Gu immortals of southern border. We can't even find a mortal who is facing tribulation. The rank 7 Gu immortal Yiqing Tang smiled coldly. Being taken as a meat shield by someone else and used as a tool to face the tribulation made this proud Gu immortal extremely displeased. Whose descendant is this mortal? Speak up, avoid losing your face when we find them. Gu immortal Wang Kai chuckled. The immortals looked at each other, but no one stood out. Rank 8 Gu immortal Ren Hai Yang's expression turned dark as he shouted, "You don't know what is good for you. You still want to hide, do you take us as fools? Look, another tribulation is falling." Suddenly, a Gu immortal gave a reminder. The sky was dark, like a giant had coated it with a dense black dye. At once, the temperature fell and cold air emanated. Swoosh swoosh swoosh. Endless ice and snow circled around like sharp blades before pouring down like a storm. Yi Qin Tang's expression turned heavy, calling out, "Dark flying frost. Who is facing the tribulation? They could actually attract one of the 10 great catastrophes." "No, that's wrong, the scale of this tribulation is even greater than the 10 great catastrophes. It's here. Hold it back." Rumble, lightning flashed and inferno roared as the dark flying frost was destroyed. Dark flying frost was indeed one of the 10 great catastrophes. After this tribulation, many Gu immortals suffered injuries. Gu immortal Guo Lao was heavily injured, and he could not help but think of retreating. Strange. Could this be because graceful chaotic dual stage is about to appear? So the heavens sent down the tribulations? No, this won't do. I don't have any immortal Gu, I can't stay here, foolishly facing the tribulation. I need to leave this dangerous place before thinking of anything else. The moment he thought of this, Guo Lao turned into a ray of light, as he flew away. This guy ran quite quickly. Yi Qin Tang sneered, proudly floating in the air with his hands behind his back. Dark flying frost was strong, but he could still deal with it. However, many rank 6 Gu immortals started imitating Guo Lao. Most of these people were bottom-tier Gu immortals, with no immortal Gu, and injuries all over their bodies. However, at the next moment, Guo Lao's figure suddenly appeared in the center of the Gu immortals. He was stunned. How could he appear here? Shortly afterwards, many more rank 6 Gu immortals were also sent back, appearing beside Guo Lao. Ambush. Someone has set a huge space path Gu formation in the surroundings. Soon, a Gu immortal reacted and shouted in shock. Rank 8 auras burst out. Peng Shilong's eyes let out a ferocious light as they gazed all around. "Who is it? Come out." "He he he." With a sinister laugh, old man Xianxia appeared with over 10 black-robed Gu immortals, encircling the southern border Gu immortals. Old man Xianxia was at the back, his hand pointing towards the sky. "Everyone, a word of advice, the third tribulation is already here." Everyone looked up. The sky was packed with lion groups. Desolate beast, Qi Grand Lion. These lions had Qi Path Dao marks and could innately fly. There were over 6,000 Qi Grand Lions. The rank 6 Gu immortals turned deathly pale. Rank 8 Gu immortal Jia shouted in fury, "Such little things. Get lost." He waved his sleeve, and a wild wind started blowing. Giant wind sickles, numbering in tens of thousands, shot in every direction. The lion group howled in pain, severely injured by the wind sickles. Many even died on the spot. The corpses were cut in thousands of pieces. Blood started to rain down majestically from the sky, mixed in it were countless bone fragments and crushed flesh. Berserk Wind Jia, you are truly mighty. Old man Xianxia lightly smiled, freely giving praise. Jia, however, frowned. He had sent most of the wind sickles towards old man Xianxia, but the wind sickles were blocked by a Gu formation and were completely destroyed, while the Gu formation only rippled and had suffered no damage. Its defensive prowess was beyond imagination. Who are these people? What are they aiming for? Scheming against us. They really are audacious. They are seeking death. You dare to oppose Gu immortals of the whole of southern border? The Gu immortals shouted and cursed, while having doubts in their mind. Time did not permit for them to wait for the response of Shadow Sect. A tribulation was descending again. Roar! A majestic dragon's cry resounded throughout the surroundings. Cloud of fire spanned 10,000 li of distance, and started pressing downwards. For Inferno Cloud's tribulation. Someone shouted. Careful, I have faced this for Inferno Cloud's tribulation. It has 4 layers in total. Each layer above is much more ferocious than the one below. A fire path Gu immortal warned. Block it. There is also the Dragon Roar tribulation. This is 2 tribulations at once. Protect surrounding Gu immortals, maintain our strength. The Gu immortals shouted one after another, as they worked together to face these tribulations. A typical 4 Inferno Clouds tribulation covers at most 100 li. Why is this so large? At Tian Mountain, Fang Yuan also watched with shock. The clouds drawn in earlier could block the vision of mortal Gu masters, but could not obstruct Fang Yuan's gaze. He felt extremely uneasy. I seem to have entered a huge trap. These black-robed Gu immortals are extremely similar to the shadow sect Gu immortals that He Lu Lan had described. They actually dared to scheme against so many southern border Gu immortals. What are they trying to do? It seems these tribulations are not because someone is undergoing tribulation, but their own handiwork. With old man Xianxia at the lead, shadow sect's immortals had constructed a giant Gu formation that completely trapped the southern border Gu immortals. The southern border Gu immortals wanted to escape and tried to break the Gu formation, but their efforts showed no results, thus they could only face the bombardment of the tribulations. As time passed, the strength of the tribulations became more terrifying. Soon even rank 7 Gu immortals felt difficulty. After another 3 waves, rank 8 Gu immortals also struggled to cope. Their expressions looked unsightly. It was not that they had not tried breaking the formation, but their attempts had failed. Hold back this tribulation, let me do it. Peng Shilong decided, activating his trump card. Waves of light scattered with imposing momentum, but shadow sect's Gu formation only shook 3 times before stabilizing again. What Gu formation is this? The southern border Gu immortals' hearts sank to rock bottom. They were unable to hide their worries. The tribulations came in succession, and the time interval between each wave became shorter and shorter. Different kinds of tribulations poured down like an endless rainstorm. The Gu immortals gradually defended more and attacked less, losing the initiative. Persevere. Jia Yi shouted, we still have a chance. The tribulations are coming against us continuously, but it is also affecting the surrounding Gu formation. The immortals felt a surge of morale. Despite the fact that some rank 6 Gu immortals were already dead, the remaining immortals did not give up. They held on bitterly, retaining hope. Once the Gu formation was destroyed by the tribulation, they could escape with their lives. The situation of the battlefield was observed by old man Xianxia. He saw all the changes clearly. Wu Xie. He softly called. Behind him, a young man stood up. He had wavy black hair that draped down to his shoulders. His eyes shined with countless lights of all kind of colors, forming a vortex that was slowly but constantly spiraling. He had a tall nose bridge, the contours of his lips were like knife carvings, and when they were closed, they gave off a cruel and demonic charm. However, right now, he was concentrating on the sky. His lips opened wide as a smile filled his face, revealing white teeth, unexpectedly appearing somewhat silly. Wu Xie. Hearing no response behind him, old man Xianxia called again. Ah, you called for me, I was looking at the fireworks. The young Gu immortal responded with a smile. Old man Xianxia gave a bitter smile. This is not a simple display of fireworks, these are tribulations. Although they look beautiful, they contain fatal danger. These are all the work of heaven's will. It is attempting to destroy us, it is our greatest enemy. The young Gu immortal immediately revealed an earnest and serious look. Ah, so it is like that. Then tell heaven's will to come out, I will take it down. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 968, 10 Extreme Immortal Zombie Lifeless Formation. Chapter 968, 10 Extreme Immortal Zombie Lifeless Formation. Translator. Atlas Studios. Editor. Atlas Studios. Old man Xianxia sighed. Heaven's will is not a physical enemy, it is everywhere, vast and boundless. As long as the 5 regions and 9 heavens exist, heaven's will is eternal. Even if you destroy a portion of heaven's will, at the same time, another portion of heaven's will would be created. The young Gu immortal was stupefied. Then what do we do? What we are doing is defying heaven, so heaven's will is our greatest enemy. After 100,000 years of preparation, we are going to unleash an explosive strike. There is a common saying, man proposes, heaven disposes. But right now, we will be taking action all of a sudden, catching heaven's will unprepared. This can be considered to be man winning against heaven. While old man Xianxia spoke to Wuxia, he pointed with his finger. The 10 extreme immortal zombie lifeless formation we set up has already entrapped all the southern border Gu immortals nearby. But only a small portion of this formation has been set, it cannot even display 1/10 of its might. The tribulations are constantly affecting the Gu formation, the formation won't last long at this rate. Next, I and some other Gu immortals will sacrifice our souls in setting up this formation. With this, the formation can display 90% of its might, only lacking a step for completion. The southern border Gu immortals will have no more chance to escape. So powerful. The young Gu immortal stared with wide-opened eyes, looking blankly. Old man Xianxia continued in a serious tone, after I die, you will be the strongest of us. You need to remember, you were born from a dream realm, and only have 18 hours of lifespan in total. Every 2 hours, your cultivation will rise by 1 rank. Right now, you have just advanced to rank 7, your lifespan only has 4 hours remaining. The stronger you become, the closer your death approaches. When you advance to rank 9, no one can defend from even one attack of yours. Rank 9 is so powerful. The young Gu immortal had a look of ignorance. Old man Xianxia chuckled, of course. Rank 9 is the limit in the whole world, it is the highest summit, this world cannot have rank 10, so rank 9 is the strongest. I can only live for 4 hours, isn't the time too short? After 4 hours, will I die? Death, what is it? The young Gu immortal asked questions one after another. Old man Xianxia patiently explained, everything has been planned properly, 4 hours is more than enough. Should the plan fail, even if you live longer it won't change the outcome. As for death. Old man Xianxia paused, before speaking slowly with a quiet and deep voice, death is the end of life, and is also the beginning of life. The young Gu immortal scratched his head, not fully understanding this. Old man Xianxia took a deep breath, his emaciated, aged body trembled in the wind, as if he would be blown away the next moment. He gazed far away. His eyes did not have whites, they were pitch black, but right now countless inverted images emerged in them. In the inverted images were Fang Yuan, by Ning Bing, the 10 extreme immortal zombie lifeless formation, Heavenly Courts Gu immortals, Southern Border Gu immortals, Tian Mountain, graceful chaotic dual stage. It's time. Old man Xianxia spoke, but before I die, I will use my remaining lifespan to deduce for you. Remember my words, they will provide huge help to you. After he finished speaking, old man Xianxia's life force started to quickly weaken. The next moment, he suddenly opened his eyes, for the first time his face showed bewilderment, seemingly being puzzled and terrified of the result of the deduction. He turned his head with difficulty, and looked at the childlike Gu immortal with an extremely complicated gaze. His lips squirmed a few times, before he finally let out several words, one of, us, be careful, failure. He revealed the heavenly secret with extreme difficulty, his body started turning into powder while he spoke, dissipating in the wind. When he said, failure, he had no more time remaining, he completely dissipated and unraveled. His soul was absorbed by the formation, completely merging in an instant. Not only old man Xianxia, a number of shadow sects Gu immortals also sacrificed themselves, their souls merging with the formation. 90%, 10 extreme immortal zombie lifeless formation. A vast radiance suddenly soared to the sky. At this moment, even the mighty heavenly tribulations and earthly calamities seemed to dim and lose their luster. The radiance was so dazzling, all the southern border Gu immortals had to tightly close their eyes. The radiance passed in an instant and the southern border Gu immortals quickly opened their eyes. The entire area was covered by a gigantic Gu formation. 10 Gu immortals stood in the air, separated from each other, standing at the outermost periphery, seemingly encircling the group of southern border Gu immortals. Among them, 9 Gu immortals wore black robes, their appearances covered under their hoods, veiled in mystery. The last one was the young Gu immortal, Wuxia. He looked all around him with curiosity. After all, he had begun life just 14 hours ago, it was understandable he had a mindset of exploring the novelty of this world. What is going on? What happened? This Gu formation has suddenly become much more powerful. Previously, under the bombardment of the tribulations, the formation had already been swaying unstably, but now it appeared like a giant reef at the seaside, unbreakable by the storm, standing firm and stable like a mountain. Sensing this situation, the hearts of the southern border Gu immortals sank. Rank 8 Gu immortal Ren Haiyang stopped protecting the rank 6 Gu immortals, and chose a direction to attack the 10 extreme immortal zombie lifeless formation. Merely putting up a facade, die. He shouted as he clapped his hands. A giant tsunami rose from thin air. The water was incomparably vast. With a roaring sound, it fiercely charged towards a black-robed Gu immortal. Protect him. The other 3 rank 8 Gu immortals exerted themselves to block the tribulations overhead, protecting Ren Haiyang. With their help, Ren Haiyang had less pressure on him. He laughed heartily as he stopped holding back and activated his immortal essence again. Waves after waves erupted, giving a feeling of covering the sky and the sun, as if an ancient beast had opened its mouth to devour heaven and earth. Wu Xia wanted to go help, but was stopped by a black-robed Gu immortal beside him. Stay at the formation core where you're located, don't move recklessly. He can deal with it. Sure enough, the mysterious Gu immortal who faced the tsunami, suddenly sent out a burst of flames that soared to the sky. In an instant, with the black-robed Gu immortal at the center, the surroundings turned into a seething world of lava. Waves over 30 meters in height smashed into the formation, and evaporated into white vapor. Whoosh! Immediately afterwards, the fire roared as it spread quickly, the intense temperature clearing up the vapor in an instant. Such power! I almost cannot control it. The black-robed Gu immortal was pleasantly surprised. He stood proudly in the center of the lava. The black robe on him was already mostly destroyed, revealing his true appearance. Fang Yuan's pupils shrunk. He recognized this person. The southern border Gu immortals also exclaimed in surprise, "You actually are a 10 extreme immortal zombie, blazing glory lightning brilliance." This person was precisely the blazing glory lightning brilliance zombie that had participated in the 100 Days battle and had successfully escaped. After he was captured by old ancestor Xuehu, he was then saved by Blazing Heaven Demonis and others sent by Zombie Alliance. Who could have thought he would actually appear here? Could it be that the party scheming against the southern border Gu immortals is Zombie Alliance? That can't be. If it were Zombie Alliance, it would be impossible for Blazing Heaven Demonis to not know of it. Perhaps. Shadow Sect. These 2 words suddenly jumped into Fang Yuan's mind. Fang Yuan's whole body shuddered. The situation was becoming worse. His own circumstances were actually similar to the southern border Gu immortals. He was also trapped here. Ren Haiyang's attack failed and he could only discontentedly retreat. The tribulations from the sky rained down like a storm. Not only did they not halt for even a moment, their power also continued to grow greater. The air was mixed with constant sounds of shouting and screaming. The rank 8 Gu immortals could hardly look after themselves. Many bottom-tier rank 6 had already lost their lives. These Gu immortals, who stood high and mighty above the masses under normal circumstances, were as weak as chicks and pups in front of the tribulations. Many of the rank 7 Gu immortals could only be carried along by the tide, like a small raft in a stormy sea. They had no control over their circumstances, and with any slight carelessness, they could be swallowed by the waves. The tribulations were very difficult to face, but the 10 extreme immortal zombie lifeless formation firmly withstood them all and was unshakable, while the southern border Gu immortals were in a predicament. At this juncture of life and death, they let go of any previous enmity and collaborated. They soon realized their only remaining path to survival. That was the immortal Gu House graceful chaotic duel stage. This immortal Gu House had extraordinary defensive strength. It could block the vast and boundless tribulations, and protect the Gu immortals. At the same time, the immortal Gu House's offensive prowess was also the most suitable weapon to break through the 10 extreme immortal zombie lifeless formation. The immortal Gu House graceful chaotic duel stage that lay deep under the earth was the hope of the southern border Gu immortals. Although the Forbidden Zone made it extremely difficult for the southern border Gu immortals to approach in person, it did not damage immortal Gu. Though the powers of immortal Gu were weakened greatly in there, they still surpassed the vast majority of mortal methods. Combine our strength to bombard Tian Mountain and get hold of graceful chaotic duel stage. Gu immortal Jia shouted. However, the only remaining ones who still had such ample strength left were the 4 rank 8 Gu immortals. The rank 7 Gu immortals, dodging and defending desperately from the tribulations, had no energy to spare. The 4 rank 8s attacked furiously, but it did not affect Tian Mountain. The thick layer of clouds above Tian Mountain had been infused with the power of the 10 extreme immortal zombie lifeless formation, and could defend from the powerful attacks. It absorbed all the attacks. Clouds and fog surged intensely for a while before it was calm again. The 4 rank 8 Gu immortals' efforts showed no results. Their eyes shone with a ferocious light, they clenched their teeth as they attacked without stop, their expressions gradually turned frantic. On Tian Mountain, it was still a scene of serenity. Mortals were all kept in the dark, knowing nothing about the blood-curdling scene above them. So long as a fraction of the tribulations leaked out, they could destroy Tian Mountain completely, and all the mortal Gu masters would turn into dust. Fang Yuan gazed at the sky heavily. Was there such a situation in my previous life as well? None of us knew death was right above us. Calm down, calm down. Fang Yuan took a few deep breaths, and forcibly dispelled his nervousness and unease, before starting to think. The shocking and enormous action taken by Shadow Sect schemed against the southern border Gu immortals, Fang Yuan was also trapped within and could not extricate himself. Although He Lulan and Fairy Lishan have joined this gamble, they are currently in Xiao Hun Blessed Land, using Luopa Valley to cultivate their souls. This Gu formation cuts off links between the inside and outside, it even restricts all my communication methods. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 969, Losses and Deaths are Natural. Chapter 969, Losses and Deaths are Natural. Translator. Atlas Studios. Editor. Atlas Studios. Even if I still had self-strength immortal Gu, rank 7 battle strength is simply not enough in this situation. The top priority now is still graceful chaotic duel stage. The southern border Gu immortals outside the forbidden zone already have no hope of taking this immortal Gu house. But I still have a chance. Only with the help of graceful chaotic duel stage will I have hope of escaping. Otherwise, I can only use spring-autumn cicada. Fang Yuan thought rapidly, the only chance in front of him was to become the new owner of graceful chaotic duel stage. He had fixed immortal travel. But this immortal Gu was in his immortal aperture. The aura of immortal Gu could be easily detected, and they could only be kept safe when stored within an aperture. However, Fang Yuan had already sealed his immortal aperture. If Fang Yuan were to break the restriction of the forbidden zone, he would be destroyed at the first moment. He simply would not be able to last 3 breaths of time to activate fixed immortal travel. However, spring-autumn cicada was not under this seal. Spring-autumn cicada was Fang Yuan's first vital Gu, it had long ago been placed under a different seal in his first aperture. After all this time, spring-autumn cicada had already recovered for the most part, and even though it was heavily sealed, it was already giving huge pressure to Fang Yuan's first aperture. Prior to this trip, it was not that Fang Yuan had not considered sealing fixed immortal travel and other immortal Gu in his first aperture just in case something happened. But it simply got nowhere. The aperture could store some mortal Gu, but containing a second immortal Gu was impossible. Even with fixed immortal travel, I am afraid. Fang Yuan's gaze pierced through the cloud layer, falling upon the 10 extreme immortal zombie lifeless formation, his breathing turned somewhat rough. Among the southern border Gu immortals, there were Space Path Gu immortals as well as Space Path immortal killer moves. But none of them were able to do anything. Clearly, this formation restricted Space Path as well, its defense was extremely tight, with no loopholes that could be exploited. Gu immortals continued to die miserably under the tribulations. The 4 rank 8 Gu immortals were also injured, they knew that the longer this continued, the lower their chances, they had no choice but to work together and break through simultaneously. You are all flies trapped in a web, where can you escape? A black-robed Gu immortal Gu blocking their way sneered, his aura was surging as his hood swayed. Northern Dark Ice Soul. Peng Shi Long shouted in shock. Frost energy spread rapidly, a crystalline ice wall that was dozens of meters tall spanned in front of them all. While the four immortals were obstructed, a lightning strike smashed down on them. Snow War Tribulation Lightning. Typical Snow War Tribulation Lightning was already one of the 10 great catastrophes. But this tribulation lightning in front of them had multiple bolts branching out, its might over dozens of times stronger. When it rains, it pours. The four immortals did not dare to face such lightning head-on. Among them, one activated a time path killer move to slow down the lightning, which gave the four immortals time to move away. The Snow War Tribulation Lightning continued on its path, as it struck the Northern Dark Ice Soul Immortal Zombie's crystalline ice wall. A huge hole was pierced through the icy wall. The Northern Dark Ice Soul Immortal Zombie snorted as he suffered minor injuries. Heaven's will. The Northern Dark Ice Soul Immortal Zombie stared fiercely at the sky. The four Southern Border Rank 8 Gu Immortals changed their direction, towards another area of the Gu formation. You shall not pass. The black-robed Gu Immortal located here, chuckled. Boom! Both sides attacked each other. They fought for a long time, but they were evenly matched. The four immortals were obstructed and their momentum was halted, but the black-robed Gu Immortal also did not have it easy. Carefree Wisdom Heart Physique. This was another immortal zombie of the 10 extreme physiques. You are Shang Clan's Shang Gui Kai. Peng Shilong frowned, recognizing the black-robed Gu Immortal's identity. Shang Clan's first Supreme Elder and I have a close friendship. As a member of Shang Clan, you actually joined a demonic organization, bringing disaster to the world. A prodigal son who returns is immeasurably precious. You still have time to repent. Otherwise, if this leads to catastrophe, you will implicate your clan as well. The black-robed Gu Immortal sneered with disdain. What do you understand? Shang Gui Kai is just an identity I used after soul replacement. What is mere Shang Clan? How can it compare to my great plan? Boom! A lightning bolt of the tribulation struck the four immortals, causing them to be on the verge of collapsing. Don't bother with him, let's change to another direction. Blazing Glory Lightning Brilliance, Northern Dark Ice Soul, Carefree Wisdom Heart, the 10 extreme physiques that one seldom sees in 100 years are actually appearing one after the other. I am afraid this is not a coincidence. This Gu formation should be using the 10 extreme physiques to garner such huge power. That means he is the only flaw. After they were thwarted by the Carefree Wisdom Heart Immortal Zombie, the four immortals quickly communicated and fixed their gazes at the young Gu Immortal Xianxia. Among all the Gu Immortals present, he was the most peculiar. He was alive, and at the same time, his aura revealed he did not have one of the 10 extreme physiques. The four immortals bore heavy injuries as they charged towards Xianxia. Xia's heart was thumping. He thought frantically, what to do? What to do? They are coming over. Don't be nervous, use your most proficient method. The black-robed Gu Immortal beside him immediately reminded. I am not nervous, I am not nervous. Xianxia took a deep breath. His breathing, however, was rushed. But as the four immortals neared him, Xianxia thought of the scene when he was born. He had been born from a dream realm. When he opened his eyes, the first person he saw was Old Man Yanshi. Old Man Yanshi had chuckled when sizing him up with his black eyes, his tone hardly concealing his happiness. Good, good, good. Pure dream reality seeker physique, you are the greatest accomplishment of my dream path research. Since Bo Qing is dead, you will replace him, becoming our greatest strength in suppressing the situation. Who are you, who am I? Xianxia curiously asked. I am you, and you are me. I am Old Man Yanshi, and you shall be called Xianxia. Old Man Yanshi chuckled. He then lightly waved his arm. Countless thoughts were transferred into Xianxia's mind. Xianxia felt information flowing into the depths of his mind. Time is limited, I can only impart an immortal killer move to you. Although it doesn't have any killing power, it is the pinnacle of dream path achievement currently in the 5 regions, at the forefront of this era. Even those heavenly court Gu immortals are far behind. As the saying goes, when you have the skill, you can eat your fill. Learn it properly. When you become a Gu immortal, I will give you a complete set of Gu worms for you to speed up your practice at that time. The recollection stopped, the four immortals had already neared him. Among them, Berserk Wind Jia was at the lead. Ingwu Xie's eyes suddenly let out a sharp light. He slowly spoke, like he was reciting, Immortal Killer Move, lead. Soul. Into. Dream. The four immortals slowed down sharply, and were extremely vigilant, as if they were facing a powerful foe. However, there was no movement even after several breaths of time. Kid, you actually dared to trick us. Peng Shilong was about to attack in fury. Right at this time, the rank 8 Gu immortal Jia, however, began to fall down. What's going on? Just when Peng Shilong and the rest were bewildered, the 10 extreme immortal zombie lifeless formation sent out an incomparably swift attack at Jia. Jia made no movement, the layers of heavy defense over his whole body began to slowly dissipate. The remaining 3 immortals quickly moved to block the Gu formation's attack. Jia was still falling. Zzz. Zzz. He had actually fallen asleep. That kid's behind this. Ren Haiyang was grim and frantic. The enemy was only a rank 7 Gu immortal, but Jia was struck by his immortal killer move, putting up no resistance. What's more, the layers of defense over his whole body showed no effects. What killer move was this? Careful! Peng Shilong exclaimed. Another form of tribulation lightning descended, this time, countless bolts of falling star lightning struck at the speed of light, reaching the southern border Gu immortals in an instant. In this wave of tribulation, most of the southern border Gu immortals lost their lives. Even the rank 8 Gu immortal Jia, renowned as Berserk Wind for hundreds of years, was turned into countless pieces by the falling star lightning. Peng Shilong and the others were not even able to take care of themselves, they simply had no time to save him. We are finished. The 3 rank 8 Gu immortals started to despair. Ingwu Xie was indeed the flaw in the formation, but his battle strength far surpassed the imaginations of the 3 immortals. This unprecedented dream path killer move directly sent Jia into deep sleep, unable to wake up. Jia died, the remaining 3 immortals' momentum immediately slowed, and their hopes of breaking through became minuscule. Hold on. On Tian Mountain, Fang Yuan, who had been observing the battlefield, also started to feel anxious. Even if he became the owner of graceful chaotic dual stage, with just his strength, it would be hard to activate the enormous immortal Gu house. It would be like a lone person controlling a battleship, it would be extremely difficult for him to make use of it. So, he had to ally with the southern border Gu immortals. The more Gu immortals in the immortal Gu house, the more immortal essence would be consumed, the more power the immortal Gu house could unleash. Just with Fang Yuan alone, it would be impossible to increase the immortal Gu house's strength to the level where it could break through the formation. Time passed, the 3 rank 8 Gu immortals were extremely exhausted, let alone the few remaining rank 7 Gu immortals who were fleeing desperately from the tribulations. When Ren Haiyang perished under the tribulations, the remaining 2 rank 8s had lost all hope. It's over now. Fang Yuan exhaled painfully, sigh, now I can only continue with my disguise and hope I won't be discovered. But right when the rank 7 and rank 6 Gu immortals had all died, with only the 2 rank 8 Gu immortals remaining, Tian Mountain suddenly began to shake. Soon, the tremor increased rapidly. The earth was shaking. What's going on? The tremor attracted the gazes of the 2 rank 8 Gu immortals. Could it be that graceful chaotic dual stage has been obtained by you? The 2 rank 8 Gu immortals said to each other with strange tones. Both were stupefied, realizing it was not due to them. Fang Yuan's body shook, he had yet to refine the immortal Gu house, so who was it? Boom! Boulders cracked, the ground opened up, and from the huge rift jumped out a figure. The great strength true martial immortal zombie. He had actually gotten free of the immortal Gu house's suppression, and flew to the sky. However, before Fang Yuan and the others could react, a cold snort resounded throughout the scene. You want to escape fate in front of us? Die! A beam of light shot down from the sky. Rank 9 Immortal Gu House, Heaven Overseeing Tower. Heavenly Court immortals had arrived. The pure white beam of light was extremely terrifying, breaking apart the 10 extreme formation like snapping a rotten branch. The 2 southern border rank 8s were immediately exterminated. Damn it! The rank 8 great strength true martial immortal zombie was not able to dodge, and could only roar in extreme unwillingness as he was turned into fine powder by the beam of light. The beam of light continued its path as it shot down onto Tian mountain. Am I going to die? Fang Yuan raised his head and clenched his teeth, all the muscles in his body tensed. A rank 9 immortal Gu house's full power attack, he had no way to defend from it. He only had one remaining trump card, Spring Autumn Cicada. At the next moment, Fang Yuan self-detonated. It failed. Spring Autumn Cicada was carrying Fang Yuan's will and had just entered the river of time when it suddenly crumbled, exploding into countless tiny fragments. Fang Yuan was dead. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 970, Rebirth, Ghost Face, Red Lotus. Chapter 970, Rebirth, Ghost Face, Red Lotus. Translator. Atlas Studios. Editor. Atlas Studios. Legend says there was a river in this world. It connected the beginning and the end, it had hidden causes and effects, flowing to every part in the world, it was everywhere. With its irrigation, the world could operate normally and all things were able to change. This river was called the River of Time. This was a secluded domain of heaven and earth, a place where time path flourished, and countless time path Gu worms lived and propagated. The endless river flowed wantonly without pause. The river was vast and boundless, its tides rose and fell along with the surging waves. Each drop of the water of time was pale and colorless, but innumerable droplets of water crashed, intertwined, collided, and spun all the time, giving off a brilliant show of lights. These brilliant lights were in all kinds of shapes and colors, and were hard to put into words. Fang Yuan felt this was one of the most beautiful sights in the world. When the rank 9 immortal Gu house, Heaven Overseeing Tower, sent out the attack which it had prepared for a long time, Fang Yuan was like a bystander that had been implicated, unable to avoid it. His only remaining option was to activate Spring Autumn Cicada. However, the rank 6 Spring Autumn Cicada had a huge flaw. There was a chance of failure every time it was used. At Qingmao Mountain, Fang Yuan successfully activated it once. At Sancha Mountain, Fang Yuan successfully activated it again. If his previous life of 500 years was counted, then Fang Yuan had already successfully activated Spring Autumn Cicada 3 times. Now, he had finally failed. Spring Autumn Cicada's activation failed. Although his will entered the River of Time, at the moment of activation, Spring Autumn Cicada self-detonated, turning into countless fragments. Fang Yuan's will was like a baby that had lost the small boat it was in and was drowning. The surging river of time would engulf and destroy Fang Yuan's will in an instant, not even a trace would remain. In the end, I still failed. At the moment of death, Fang Yuan's remaining will was strangely tranquil. There was no worry, no discontent, and no regret. When he had first chosen this path, he had already expected the situations that could occur. The situation right now had already been within Fang Yuan's consideration. He could do nothing now. He had already done everything he could. If a chance was given to me again, I would still choose to live this way. So be it, my story as a Gu immortal shall end here. Although I did not leave behind any biography or inheritance, but, it doesn't matter. Fang Yuan's will was quickly dissipating. He was tranquil, even feeling happy in a way. If he still had a face, the corners of his lips would probably be curled up into a smile right now. Dying while pursuing one's goal, what regrets could he have? Fang Yuan's laughter abruptly stopped, a strange change was occurring at this moment. From the remote and grand river of time, a ghost face suddenly came out. The ghost face first looked at Fang Yuan's remaining will and made faces, seemingly in silent mockery. Then, the pitch-black ghost face's cheeks swelled up, its expression seemed like one of extreme suffering, like it was going to vomit. A giant flower bud, dripping wet, came out from the ghost face's mouth. The ghost face's mouth almost ripped apart, its lips had stretched to an exaggerated degree, even reaching its ears. After vomiting out the flower bud, the ghost face relaxed before starting to make faces at Fang Yuan again. It was amusingly comical, but at the same time was a ghastly and terrifying smiling expression. And that flower bud started to slowly blossom in the river. Time seemed to have stopped at that moment. In the blink of an eye, the flower bud opened, turning into an enchanting red lotus. From the center of the lotus shot out a slightly red light ray that landed at the area where spring-autumn cicada had shattered. The time in the red light began to turn back. At the same time, the ghost face that had carried the red lotus slowly sank down into the river. Like a movie being played backwards, everything began to go backwards. As if water spilled from a basin was returning. Fang Yuan's will had almost completely dissipated, the scant few bits remaining were negligible. But under the illumination of the red light, his will began to rapidly restore and countless goo worm fragments also began to appear. And when these goo worm fragments joined together, they turned into an intact spring-autumn cicada. Spring-autumn cicada carried Fang Yuan's restored will, and began to set on its path again. The red light dissipated, the red lotus immediately scattered, and that ghost face also had been completely washed down into the endlessly surging river of time. It was as if everything had been an illusion. However, spring-autumn cicada was already forcibly restored. It carried Fang Yuan's will, carrying Fang Yuan's remaining hopes as it flowed in the river. Flowing backwards. Returning to the past. Star-form blessed land. Poisonous fog was spreading, poisonous blood was boiling, 3 layers of goo formations were already destroyed by corrosion, the surrounding land turned into a thin layer of poisonous swampland. Fang Yuan's face was stern. Next is the most troublesome and difficult to process immortal material, earthly limit astral chi. He took out an immortal material and held it in his hands. This goo refinement material was very peculiar, it was made up of soil and chi. They gathered into a lump. At the top was light azure-colored astral chi, below was black soil. Astral chi was the heaven chi found up in the 9 heavens. Outside the immemorial 9 heavens was a thick wall of astral chi. If a goo immortal wanted to explore the 9 heavens, they would need to break through the astral chi wall. Meanwhile, the black soil was made up of the essence of earth chi condensed from the 10 depths. Heaven and earth chi could not coexist, but at this moment, this earthly limit astral chi was joined together in harmony. Not only were they existing peacefully, they were converting into one another constantly. Black soil turned into astral chi while astral chi turned into black soil. Fang Yuan shook it by moving his hands rapidly, as this lump of earthly limit astral chi melted, fusing with the black soil and becoming a lump of fog. But after shaking, after a dozen breaths, the black soil sank while the astral chi stayed on top. Black and white was separated again, the two were rotating, it was a mystical sight. Processing such an immortal material is most troublesome. Ordinary refinement path killer moves cannot deal with it perfectly. Only the 4 publicly recognized strongest immortal killer moves to deal with immortal materials, slumbering lightning python, reflect snow, muffled thunder stone drum, and wind grind, can complete this step instantly. Unfortunately, I do not have any of these 4 immortal killer moves. To process the earthly limit astral chi, I can only put in much time and effort. Fang Yuan's thoughts flashed as he moved his feet, his huge body shot into the air, he leaped and jumped into the turtle shell, into the poisonous blood. Boom! Fang Yuan flashed his sharp nails, causing injuries on his 6 monstrous arms. He next slashed at his chest, back, and other areas, creating openings on his skin. Blood refinement killer move, blood trace travel. From these injuries, traces of blood appeared. The blood traces quickly fused into the dark purple poisonous blood. The poisonous blood in the turtle shell was drawn away, it moved into Fang Yuan's wounds. Intense pain assaulted him, Fang Yuan snorted. Immortal zombies did not have a sense of pain. Fang Yuan could feel pain because he used Gu worm methods. He needed to feel pain so that he could know what step the immortal materials were at. Fang Yuan's blood and the poisonous blood in the turtle shell acting as a pot continued to fuse and circulate. They were entering and exiting Fang Yuan's body. After this process stabilized, Fang Yuan took out the earthly limit astral qi and swallowed it. Gulp, the earthly limit astral qi entered his stomach. This was his own original method, created in his previous life, an abnormal technique using blood path to refine Gu. He called this the flesh-body blood refinement technique. The earthly limit astral qi entered his body, it was engulfed by the blood and slowly melted into the blood. Blood flowed out of Fang Yuan's body through the wounds, into the turtle shell pot, and sank to the bottom. At the same time, the other poisonous blood in the pot flowed into Fang Yuan's body through the wounds, engulfing the earthly limit astral qi again. Time slowly passed, 3 days and 2 nights later. Fang Yuan was covered in wounds, the pain made his face distorted, his 8 monstrous arms were inserted into the poisonous blood, his fangs were exposed and his eyes were red, he was breathing heavily like an ox. Still a night remaining, I need to completely process all the earthly limit astral qi in my body. As long as I can get past this step, the most difficult part of refining change form immortal Gu would be over. Suddenly, Fang Yuan's pained expression stiffened. Under his deep frowning expression, his bright eyes suddenly showed confusion, almost losing all their luster. When refining immortal Gu, one had to maintain high degrees of concentration. How could he be allowed to be distracted? PFF. He immediately spat out a large mouthful of poisonous blood. Shortly afterwards, he fell down heavily in the poisonous blood in the giant turtle shell, raising a huge wave of blood. The bloody wave splashed out of the turtle shell, into the grassland. Soon, a large patch of healthy green grass turned into dark red smoke due to the corrosion. Master! Star Form Land Spirit shouted worriedly, jumping into the turtle shell. Suddenly, Fang Yuan's head emerged from the pool of blood. He splashed around twice, before standing up. The confusion on his face quickly disappeared, his gaze brimming with energy as he mumbled, this place. Hearing Fang Yuan's mumbling, Star Form Land Spirit became even more worried. Did Master lose his mind because of the refinement failure? Fang Yuan gazed at his hands first, then swept through the turtle shell and the blood pool, before finally stopping on Star Form Land Spirit. What time is it now? Fang Yuan asked. Star Form Land Spirit jolted inwardly, but still replied, many days have already passed since Master began refining the immortal Gu. Ha ha ha. Fang Yuan raised his head and laughed heartily. Star Form Land Spirit felt bleak. Oh no, Master has lost his mind. After failing the immortal Gu refinement, his body suffered heavy injuries, he has even forgotten the time, and is still laughing so happily. There was no need for Fang Yuan to tell others about the reason for his happiness. I have returned once again. Despite the activation of Spring-Autumn Cicada failing, because of a strange change, I returned to life from death, from defeat to victory, my will has once again returned to the past. I am still refining change form immortal Gu, the time is over a year ago. This is actually so short. According to my foundation and with so many immortal Gu on me, I should have at least traveled several hundred years back. Is it because Spring-Autumn Cicada failed to activate that I only returned to a point over a year ago? Also, that ghost face and the red lotus, what was going on, what had happened? If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible.